In a world where demons inherit thrones, a half-blood mad dog is destined to either save the empire or burn it to the ground. But no one warns him about the girl who decides to use him first. And that girl is Isabella Leonard. After marrying into a ducal house, she begins moving pieces no one around her fully understands until it is already too late. One day, her father contacts her in desperation and explains that her mother is demanding a divorce. According to him, she has lost her senses and refuses to listen to reason, so he believes Isabella might be the only person capable of calming her down. Instead of sympathy, he is met with cold honesty. Isabella tells him that her mother's state is hardly surprising because he has always had a gift for driving people to madness. Her words catch him off guard, and he quickly assumes that his daughter must be the one influencing her mother against him. Isabella does not deny it. Instead, she calmly reveals that she has done far more than encourage a divorce. She is also the reason his finances have collapsed and his fortune has disappeared. Her father is stunned by the confession and reminds her that while his wife may choose to end their marriage, Isabella still carries his blood. To him, blood should mean loyalty. But Isabella sees it differently. She bitterly remarks that if returning his tainted blood were possible, she would have done so long ago. Trying to defend himself, her father insists that everything he has done was for the family. As the head of the household, he claims his decisions were meant to protect them. Isabella immediately tears that excuse apart. She reminds him of his affair with the Marchioness, a woman who had once been her mother's closest friend. In her eyes, no true head of a family betrays his wife in such a way, and friendship certainly does not mean sharing husbands. Still, her father clings to his justification. He argues that his actions were necessary for the survival of House Collins, and if only her mother had maintained her connection with the Emperor, things could have turned out differently. Before he can continue, Isabella cuts him off and tells him that those days are gone. Nothing will change now, and he should leave. Instead of leaving, rage takes over him. He grabs her violently and hurls insults at her, accusing her of becoming arrogant after marrying a duke. He reminds her that House Collins raised and fed her all her life, as though that debt should silence her forever. But Isabella remains unmoved. She tells him that if he regrets her existence so much, then he should never have brought her into the world. She then asks him how it feels to be destroyed by the very seed of misfortune he planted himself. Enraged, her father continues cursing her. But before he can do anything else, the door suddenly opens. Her husband steps inside. With a simple snap of his fingers, Isabella's father is thrown to the ground without understanding what just happened. Struggling to stand, he looks around in confusion. Her husband casually asks why his father-in-law is lying on the floor. Still unable to comprehend what happened, the older man questions it, only for the Duke to snap his fingers again, sending him crashing down once more. The Duke then calmly asks if he has anything to say. Trying to recover his pride, Isabella's father protests that nobles should not treat one another this way. But the Duke coldly reminds him that his title as a count means very little now, especially since even that title has practically been mortgaged away. Faced with that truth, the man falls silent. At that moment, a cat gracefully jumps onto the Duke's shoulder and declares itself Count Mew Collins, the new head of the house. The sight leaves Isabella's father staring in complete disbelief, unable to decide whether what he is seeing is real or madness. The Duke casually remarks that the title will likely serve him far better than it ever served his father-in-law. Yet, as he moves closer to Isabella, his expression changes. While holding her, he notices bruises marking her delicate skin. The sight instantly awakens a darker side of him. He quietly states that her father will pay for touching her. Though he admits he is still learning to control his power, he warns that accidents may happen and the older man could end up crushed in the process. He only hopes that his father-in-law understands the risk. Before things go too far, Isabella reminds him not to forget that the rest belongs to her. Soon others arrive. Isabella calmly orders that Benjamin be summoned because her father appears to be unwell. Benjamin steps forward and examines the man, who desperately insists that he has just been spoken to by a cat and thrown through the air. Benjamin listens before calmly concluding that the symptoms point toward madness. When asked what she thinks, Isabella responds that although she may be a doctor, she is human first. Benjamin then suggests restraining her father, since he appears emotionally unstable. Isabella gives her approval without hesitation. Her father curses her, calling her wicked and insisting he is not insane. He accuses her of plotting everything and turns toward Benjamin in disbelief, unable to understand why someone he trusted is now standing against him. But Isabella no longer shows him any warmth. She walks toward him one final time and quietly bids him farewell, before sending him away to an asylum. Even after condemning her own father, Isabella shows no guilt, sorrow, or hesitation. Her beauty hides something far darker beneath the surface, making her seem less like an innocent daughter and more like a devil wrapped in elegance. As she watches him disappear, she quietly promises that their next meeting will be in hell. And that is where her revenge truly begins. On what should have been a warm summer day, an unnatural chill fills the air. Isabella's brother, Aster, notices the lifeless coldness in her face. She questions why he continues going this far, reminding him that their father abandoned her long ago. But Aster sees things differently. He reminds her of the fate awaiting anyone who carries the blood of the imperial family. Bitterness fills his voice as he admits that if she had never been born a princess, Their father would have acknowledged him as the true heir. Before the conversation can continue, another voice calls for Isabella to be brought forward, and without hesitation, Aster obeys. Before everything falls apart, Isabella's tragedy begins with her mother, Lily Leonard. Lily Leonard is once the emperor's most beloved daughter, admired for her grace, intelligence, and noble blood. In her youth, she falls deeply in love with a man she believes will cherish her forever. Even though her decision goes against the will of the emperor, she chooses love over duty. Already carrying Isabella, she abandons the safety of the imperial family and marries the man she believes shares her feelings with equal sincerity. For a time, Lily believes she has found happiness. But years later, that love becomes the very thing that destroys her. As chaos begins consuming the empire, Lily finds herself standing before Prince Aster, the man who has already removed his older brother in his ruthless pursuit of the throne. Desperate to protect her daughter, Lily pleads with him to spare Isabella's life, warning that if anything happens to her child, she will choose death herself. Aster watches her with amusement, calling it a touching display of maternal love. Realizing mercy will not come from him, Lily bitterly admits that begging a cold-blooded man like him is meaningless. Not long after, Aster reveals what he has heard. According to the rumors, Isabella secretly entered the emperor's chambers while hiding something, and he directly accuses her of trying to poison the emperor. Isabella immediately denies it. She points out that the emperor's death would only benefit Aster the most. Her bold answer earns his attention. Without losing composure, Isabella explains that what she brought was not poison, but an antidote, medicine capable of temporarily waking someone who has already been poisoned. Aster demands proof. He declares that if Lily drinks it and survives, he will believe Isabella's words. Isabella tries to explain that the medicine was never meant for someone who has not been poisoned. But before she can stop her, Lily takes the medicine herself. Even in that moment, her only concern remains her daughter. She firmly declares that no one should touch even a single strand of Isabella's hair. Aster coldly replies that her daughter's fate depends entirely on her actions. He then reveals the truth behind his obsession. Despite being the only prince left alive, the emperor still has not named him heir. It almost feels as though the emperor has been waiting for a more capable successor, perhaps a princess who once ended the demon war through negotiation rather than bloodshed. Then he gives Lily his final order. If she truly wants to save Isabella, she must not leave even a single drop of the antidote behind. As Lily continues drinking, Isabella watches in horror, unable to believe that the medicine they created to save lives is now being used to kill the person she loves most. Her screams fill the air as she calls for her mother, but everything has already been planned. It is not an accident. It is an execution. Soon, the official judgment is announced before the Empire. Lily Leonard is declared a traitorous former princess who supposedly conspired with Duke Blake to hand the empire over to demons. Isabella is accused of attempting to assassinate the emperor. For these crimes, mother and daughter are sentenced to death by fire. The cruel irony is unbearable. The peace treaty Lily once risked her life to obtain, crossing brutal battlefields despite her father's opposition, is now twisted into evidence against her. Before the people, the emperor claims that his beloved daughter and granddaughter were seduced by demons and transformed into witches. Pretending sorrow, he announces that because he failed to protect his family, he will personally burn them with his own hands and asks the people for forgiveness. In her final moments, Lily shows no fear. Her last words are simple and filled with hatred. She promises that she will see him in hell. After death, Isabella awakens in another realm. There, she encounters a strange being who questions her with amusement, mentioning that she seems ready to make several unreasonable wishes. Isabella demands to know who it is. The being reveals itself to be a demon. It explains that she is the one who called for them. Without hesitation, Isabella states her first wish. She wants time to be turned back. The demon, sensing the rage inside her, asks whether she wants revenge badly enough to tear certain people apart, but Isabella refuses to leave something so personal in someone else's hands. Revenge belongs to her alone, and she intends to carry it out herself. The demon bursts into laughter, finding her even more terrifying than demons themselves. Then it hands her a book. Inside are the hidden truths of her mother's life. As Isabella reads, she discovers the painful story of Lily Leonard, a woman who gave up everything for love, only to be betrayed by the two people she trusted most. Her husband and her closest friend had been having an affair behind her back, and in the end, both of them chose to serve Aster. To prove their loyalty, her own husband cornered Lily and Isabella and forced them toward the flames. Unable to continue reading, Isabella closes the book. She then asks the demon one final question. How far back can time be reversed? The demon answers that with the amount of mana available, only 3 years can be reclaimed. Going any further would burn away too much power. For Isabella, that is more than enough. She declares that she would even offer her soul if necessary. But the demon has no interest in her soul. Instead, it proposes a deal. If Isabella wants her revenge and her second chance, she must find and bring out the demon lord's son, who is hiding inside the magic tower. And with that, Isabella's true revenge begins. Before Isabella's revenge can truly begin, she learns about the man who may become the most dangerous piece on her board, Kaiden Blake. Kaiden is known across the Empire as both a symbol of peace and a living contradiction. He is born from the alliance that ended the long and brutal war between the Empire and the demon world. Decades earlier, both sides agree to end the bloodshed by joining their bloodlines through marriage. The Empire sends its hero, Ethan Blade, while the demon world offers its princess, Hela Lucifer. From that union, Kaiden is born. Though his birth is meant to represent peace, the world never truly accepts him. Instead of seeing him as the bridge between two races, people see him as a half-blood who belongs nowhere. Among nobles, he is treated as something beneath them. They whisper that the son of a demon could never fit into high society, and that a creature like him has no true place in either world. Even after becoming the master of the Northern Magic Tower and volunteering to defend humanity by hunting demons at the entrance of the demon world, he receives no gratitude. Instead, people mock him and call him the Mad Dog of the North, finding it unsettling that the son of a demon spends his life slaughtering demons. But Kaiden's greatest battle is not against monsters. It is against the blood inside him. When he turns 18, the demon blood dominating his body awakens and triggers a violent mana torrent. There is only one known way to survive such a condition. He must enter a contract with a human and fully awaken as a demon. But Kaiden refuses. He refuses to become part of a race he despises. Ordinary human mages who suffer mana torrents rarely survive more than a year, yet Kaiden endures it for 8 long years, resisting the transformation with sheer willpower. In the end, he refuses to submit until his final breath, and eventually he dies in a catastrophic explosion. As Isabella reads this story from a mysterious book titled The Mad Dog of the North, she wonders whether it is another prophecy, much like the story of her mother. The demon confirms that it is. If Kaiden is not saved, his destruction is inevitable. To prevent that fate, he must become a demon, and for that he needs a human contract partner. Isabella immediately asks the obvious question. Why her? The demon answers with unsettling honesty. Her beauty makes them want to ruin her. Her pride makes her dangerous. Her intelligence makes her useful. And her radiance is so overwhelming that even demons find it difficult to ignore. In their eyes, she is one of the few humans strong enough to stand beside Kaiden without being consumed. The demon then reveals its true goal. Kaiden's mana is overwhelming, powerful enough to crush weaklings and claim the throne of the Demon King. All Isabella has to do is form a contract and bring him out of the tower. Once freed, his instincts alone may guide him toward becoming the next ruler of demonkind. Isabella quickly realizes how useful such a man could be. A half-demon on the verge of destruction may be unstable, but his hatred toward demons means even demonkind cannot control him easily. So she agrees, but only under one condition. She will borrow Kaiden for herself. She plans to use him for her own purposes before returning him. The demons accept her terms, warning her that she has exactly 1 year. They also hand her a special dress, telling her that if the Mad Dog turns on her, it may become the only thing keeping her alive. Soon after, Isabella finds herself standing inside the magic tower, and the moment she sees Kaiden Blake, she realizes no introduction is needed. His appearance alone is overwhelming. Kaiden immediately questions who she is and whether she knows what kind of man stands before her. Without fear, Isabella answers that she knows enough. He is a monster, a demon slayer, and the infamous Mad Dog of the North. His eyes sharpen at her words, and he warns her that people who speak carelessly around him often end up torn apart. But Isabella does not back down. She calmly points out that he does not harm those without mana. Then, with perfect composure, she bows and introduces herself as Isabella Leonard. Kaiden seems surprised by her surname. He remarks that he thought there were no women left in the imperial family. She explains that she uses her mother's name, not her father's. When she tries to explain why, her anger slips through and she openly curses him instead. Kaiden watches her silently. For a moment, Isabella wonders whether he believes her story. Then he suddenly steps closer. He studies her carefully before noticing the mana stone that allowed her to reach the tower. From that alone, he concludes that her father must have sent her. He coldly asks whether her family has fallen so low that her father sold her off. Then, without warning, he begins removing part of his clothing and casually asks whether they should begin. In his mind, he assumes some duke must be more worried about producing an heir than dealing with his unstable son, so they sent a woman instead. Meanwhile, Isabella can only stare in disbelief. She had heard he was a mad dog. No one told her he behaved like a beast in heat. Still, she quickly realizes he is trying to intimidate her. Instead of retreating, she accepts his challenge. She boldly tells him that if he wants her, then he must become her husband first. She adds that as his wife, she can fulfill every duty expected of her, whenever he desires. Kaiden remains unmoved, claiming there is nothing he could possibly want from her. That is when Isabella changes tactics. She touches him. Then she asks whether his obsession with hunting demons comes from hatred alone. He immediately tells her to stop. But Isabella continues pressing deeper, asking whether he has truly never wanted attention. He denies it. Then she speaks the one name that breaks through his defenses, Hela Lucifer. She quietly tells him that no matter how long he waits like a good son, his mother never comes, even if he never expected love from her. A part of him still wishes she would appear at least once. For the first time, Kaiden's composure cracks. He tells her to leave, to stop digging into wounds she knows nothing about. But Isabella understands more than he realizes. She knows what it means to be abandoned. And because of that, she makes him an offer. If he becomes her husband for 1 year, she will help him meet his mother. The moment those words leave her lips, Kaiden suddenly collapses. For 5 long years, Kaiden Blake lives with the same nightmare repeating itself over and over again. In his dream, eliminating demons at the northern border does not feel so terrible. Because of his efforts, the people are able to harvest their crops safely. Children continue growing up in peace, and ordinary families live without fear of demon attacks. For once, he feels something unfamiliar. The people are grateful to him. No one looks at him with contempt. No one whispers that he is the son of a demon. No one treats him like he does not belong. But the real problem has never been other people. It has always been the cursed demon blood flowing inside him. Then the dream always changes. A strange sound echoes through the air as black wings tear out from his back. Just as his consciousness begins fading, sinister horns burst from his skull. Then comes the explosion. Flames swallow everything in sight. The blacksmith, his wife, even their newborn child. Every time, Kaiden wakes with the same terror, realizing it is not just a nightmare but a warning of what may happen if his mana torrent finally goes out of control. Meanwhile, Isabella Leonard refuses to let him continue running away. She quietly tells him that he can no longer avoid making a contract with her. She also thanks the cat for leading her to his bedroom because without it, finding him would not have been easy. As she walks closer to him and sees him fast asleep, she briefly wonders where she got the courage to boldly ask a man like him to become her husband earlier. After thinking about it, she decides that if she is going to end up in a loveless marriage anyway, she might as well marry someone handsome. And Kaiden certainly has an appearance that easily catches the eye. As she notices his fever has gone down slightly, she carefully begins closing his shirt. But before she can finish, Kaiden suddenly wakes and immediately questions what she has done to him. Without panicking, Isabella hands him a cup of periwinkle tea, explaining that it is a common plant known for its calming properties. She bluntly tells him that he is not going to die today, so he might as well drink it. Though hesitant, he eventually takes it and drinks. She then explains that his cat is the reason he is lying in bed instead of collapsing on the cold stone floor where he had fallen earlier. Kaiden quietly thanks the cat and tells it to come closer. The cat responds obediently. Shortly after, Kaiden notices Isabella's gaze and questions exactly where she thinks she is looking. She immediately reminds him that he is the one who has been revealing far too much of himself since earlier. Putting that aside, he asks how she plans to help him meet the Demon King. Isabella explains what she knows. She tells him that the king of the demon world is the strongest being in the realm. Though it may appear that the throne is passed down through bloodlines, the crown only remains in that family because their blood produces the strongest ruler. Her solution is simple. He will form a contract with her, fully awaken his demon blood, become the strongest demon, and claim the throne himself. Kaiden reacts coldly, questioning whether she is truly asking him to become one of the selfish race he despises. Isabella refuses to let him hide behind excuses. She asks whether denying reality and running away from the truth changes anything when he could explode at any moment. She calls that selfish. She reminds him that most people who suffer mana torrents barely survive a year, yet he has endured for 5. That alone proves how terrifying the power inside him truly is. Shield magic exists, but when he finally explodes, the entire north may become a wasteland. Innocent villagers will die, families will be destroyed, even his father may disappear in the flames. Kaiden falls silent as her words match the nightmare that has haunted him for years. Until now, he always believed he would be the only one to die. For the first time, he realizes how wrong he has been. Isabella notices his hesitation and presses even deeper. She asks whether he is not curious about something. His mother, Hela Lucifer, abandoned everything for the throne. How would she feel if that same throne were taken away by her own son in the end? Isabella tells him that if she were in his position, she would do something instead of quietly waiting for destruction to claim her. After a long silence, Kaiden finally asks what exactly she plans to use him for, and why she is doing all of this. Isabella does not hide anything. She reveals that her father betrayed her mother by having an affair with her mother's closest friend. Since then, she has carefully designed a plan to destroy him in the most humiliating way possible. Every time she remembers that half of her blood comes from him, she feels so disgusted that she sometimes does not want to keep living. Her ultimate goal is to make her mother, Lily Leonard, become empress. But the greatest obstacle standing in their way is Prince Aster. That is why she needs the support of the Blake family. She sincerely asks Kaiden to become the strongest ally for both her and her mother. When her father becomes drunk on the dream of becoming the husband of an empress, she will be the one to push him into despair. After all, being abandoned by the son of an empire hurts far more than being abandoned by a powerless wife. Kaiden listens quietly before asking whether that means she plans to squeeze every drop of value out of him. Isabella calmly tells him that she will keep him updated as things progress. She also mentions hearing that he needs a bride before he can become the Demon King, so she offers herself for that role. After 1 year, they can divorce. After all, she doubts he would want to keep her around forever. Kaiden bluntly agrees that he does not. Then he asks whether they should begin today. Isabella asks if he means their marriage contract. He nods, then gently lifts a strand of her hair and presses his lips against it, before leaning closer and asking whether she is prepared to fulfill the duties of his wife. Just as the atmosphere begins changing, a voice suddenly interrupts them. It tells them both to stop and focus on the contract first. It is the cat, Muser. It casually remarks that it finds it unbelievable that it took Kaiden 5 whole years to finally make his first contract, all because of his stubbornness. Then it calmly jumps between them, separating the two before settling comfortably on Isabella's legs. It adds that Kaiden should work extra hard to make up for all the wasted years. Kaiden can only stare at the cat in complete shock, hearing it speak for the very first time, while it simply licks its paws as though nothing unusual has happened. Muser suddenly interrupts the tense atmosphere and proudly introduces himself as the most capable lesser demon in the world. Curious, Isabella Leonard asks what exactly a lesser demon is. Muser explains that lesser demons usually serve as partners to greater demons, and each of them goes through a selection process before choosing who they will follow. He reveals that he personally chose Kaiden Blake because he believed Kaiden would one day become an incredibly powerful demon. However, 5 years have already passed, and Muser still finds it unbelievable that he is only now able to reveal his true identity, all because Kaiden has finally found a contract partner. To him, the entire situation feels almost ridiculous, but he admits that he has no other choice. In frustration, Muser suddenly leaps onto Kaiden and begins biting his hand. Seeing the unexpected attack, Isabella quickly grabs the cat and pulls him away. Instead of scolding him, she thanks him for staying by Kaiden's side all this time. She openly admits that his presence will be extremely useful because she feels her contract partner has very little experience. Muser lets out a smug smile and proudly agrees, explaining that a greater demon can never truly thrive without a lesser demon beside him. His duty is to feed, guide, and raise Kaiden until he becomes the demon destined to fulfill his fate. Kaiden immediately reminds the cat that he is the one who has been keeping him company all these years, causing Muser to hiss before walking away with offended pride. Not wasting more time, Kaiden tells Isabella that since everyone is present, they should complete the contract immediately. Before Isabella can react, Muser suddenly leaps toward her and scratches her palm. Blood slowly drips from her hand as Muser calmly tells her that it is an offering. The moment those words leave his mouth, a blinding flash fills the room. Isabella's consciousness fades almost instantly, and as her body begins collapsing, Kaiden quickly catches her before she hits the ground, and with that, their contract is finally sealed. When Isabella opens her eyes again, she finds herself lying on a bed inside House Cullen's estate. Her mind feels hazy as she tries to remember what happened. Then, a familiar scent reaches her. As she slowly sits up, her eyes widen in disbelief. Sitting right beside her is Lily Leonard. Overwhelmed with emotion, Isabella immediately calls out to her and tightly embraces her. Lily, confused by her daughter's sudden reaction, gently asks whether she had a bad dream. Isabella quietly admits that it was indeed a terrifying dream. Trying to comfort her, Lily softly explains that dreams are often the opposite of reality, and perhaps something wonderful is waiting ahead. She then mentions that Isabella had been running a fever, but now she looks much better. Lily also casually adds that Isabella's father keeps insisting on throwing something out. Hearing that, Isabella immediately stiffens. She nervously asks what exactly her father wants thrown away. Lily points toward the corner of the room. There sits Muser. Lily explains that the cat made an enormous mess earlier, though she decided to ignore it, so Isabella should take responsibility for him. Looking at the cat, Isabella finally realizes that everything was real. She then formally introduces Muser to her mother. Lily simply smiles warmly and assures her daughter that she will always stand by her side. Hearing those words makes Isabella's chest tighten. She remembers that in her previous life, her mother truly gave up everything trying to protect her, even sacrificing her life in agony. There is no doubt that Lily loves her even more than herself. This time, Isabella silently swears that no matter what happens, she will protect her mother, even if it costs her everything. The following morning, Isabella wakes up to a letter from Lily. Her mother explains that she has gone out to pray and has prepared Isabella's favorite meal, reminding her not to skip breakfast. Isabella quietly wishes her mother had told her before leaving. As she wonders what dish her mother prepared, old memories begin flooding back. When she was a little girl, every time she fell ill, Lily would always make her beef stew the following morning. The taste was so comforting that even years later, after attending school and growing older, Isabella never forgot it. Lost in those memories, she hears a knock at her door. Soon, the family chef, Tilda, enters and announces breakfast, saying that the best way to start the day is with a full stomach. Isabella immediately calls Tilda closer and asks her to bring the tray to her bedside. But the moment she smells the food, her expression changes. This is not her mother's stew. Just as Tilda turns to leave, Isabella stops her and asks where the beef stew her mother prepared is. Tilda explains that the meal in front of her was personally made by Marchioness Richmond, and that it is supposedly better for restoring her strength. But Isabella's face instantly hardens. She coldly tells Tilda that she cannot eat something that smells so awful and orders her to prepare it again. Tilda hesitantly obeys and returns with another plate. Yet the moment Isabella smells it, she rejects it once more, claiming it smells just as terrible as before. Again and again, she forces Tilda to remake the meal until the poor chef becomes completely confused. Eventually, Tilda nervously asks what exactly is wrong with the food. Isabella simply answers that the smell makes her feel sick enough to throw up. Before Tilda can respond, Marchioness Richmond personally enters the room. Calmly, she asks whether her stew is truly that bad. Then she casually explains that Tilda's daughter recently suffered from morning sickness and suggests that perhaps Isabella's strange reaction is related to her physical condition. Catherine Richmond is not just her mother's childhood friend. She is also her father's mistress, the woman who secretly connects him to Prince Astor and the queen bee of noble society who knows exactly how to manipulate appearances. The morning she walks into Isabella's room, she carries herself with the same polished elegance as always, wearing a graceful smile that hides far more than it reveals. Isabella Leonard greets her politely, but her words immediately carry hidden thorns. She calmly asks about the health of Marquess Richmond and whether her husband knows that she visits another man's home this early in the morning. Catherine tries to brush it aside, saying her husband is the same as always and that his condition is none of Isabella's concern. But Isabella does not stop there. She continues asking whether the Marquess knows his wife is cheating with another man. For a brief moment, Catherine's smile stiffens, but she quickly recovers, thanking Isabella for being so considerate before once again reminding her that it is none of her business. Catherine then casually mentions that she came to see Lily Leonard, only to hear that Lily has already gone to the temple. She smoothly claims that they must have missed each other because she herself is just returning from early morning prayers. Isabella slowly looks her up and down before asking if that is truly what she wears to a temple. Catherine smiles without shame and explains that appearances do not matter. What truly matters is charity, and she donates more than enough money to the temple. Isabella responds with a smile of her own, quietly noting that there is no need for confession when one's true nature is already so easy to see. The two exchange laughter, though neither of them finds anything amusing. Catherine then picks up the tray of food and asks whether Isabella truly cannot eat because of the smell. She casually mentions hearing that Tilda's daughter has been unable to eat because of pregnancy, and Tilda nervously confirms it. Then Catherine's words become sharper. She reminds Isabella that Lily also became pregnant before marriage, and perhaps it is unnecessary for a daughter to follow her mother in every way. Isabella's expression does not change. Instead, she calmly replies that even if that were true, it would still be better than being like the Marquess, who may be raising another man's child without knowing it. Her words strike with perfect precision. Everyone in noble society knows the rumors surrounding House Richmond. When Catherine marries the aging Marquess as his third wife, he is already over 50. Not long after, she miraculously gives birth to a son and quickly secures authority within the household. But whispers soon spread everywhere. The Marquess is rumored to be infertile. His previous wives never conceived. So how exactly did Catherine become pregnant so easily? Thinking of the old man lying helplessly in bed while remaining blind to the truth makes Isabella feel a strange pity. Catherine immediately cuts her off and tells her to stop saying such strange things and simply eat. She pretends to hand Isabella the food with concern, but the moment Isabella reaches for it, she deliberately lets go. The bowl crashes and hot stew splashes everywhere. Isabella quickly apologizes, claiming it was an accident. But as the scent rises from the spilled food, her eyes grow colder. The clothes Catherine is wearing, the perfume on her skin, even the stew itself. Everything smells exactly like her mother. Isabella directly confronts her, questioning why she keeps trying so hard to imitate Lily. Catherine's face immediately hardens with anger, but before she can respond, Isabella's father walks into the room. Isabella's father asks what is happening. The moment Isabella sees him, old memories return. Even on the day he burned them alive, he remained obsessed with looking polished and formal. But whenever he appears slightly less composed, it always means he has been somewhere he should not have been. Seeing him now only confirms her suspicions. Catherine suddenly begins sobbing, accusing Isabella of deliberately spilling the stew she lovingly prepared. Watching the performance, Isabella feels a painful regret. If only she had paid more attention to her surroundings in her previous life, instead of locking herself away with books. Perhaps she would have noticed sooner and protected her mother. Her father calls her name sharply, and Isabella quietly answers that it was only an accident. Then, while pretending to wipe her hand, she reveals a fresh burn. Catherine gasps at the sight. Without even being asked, Tilda immediately speaks up, insisting that she clearly saw Isabella spill the stew on purpose and that the Marchioness was only trying to help her recover. Isabella's father slowly turns toward Tilda and asks where exactly she thinks she is. Trembling, Tilda answers that this is House Collins Manor. He then asks if she remembers who truly gives orders in this house. Tilda nervously mentions her responsibility over household affairs, but he coldly corrects her. Her job is not to speak out of turn. Her job is to ensure that nothing like this ever happens in his home. Tilda immediately bows her head in fear and apologizes. Isabella quietly watches everything unfold. She knows exactly why her father reacts so strongly. At only 20 years old, young, beautiful, and unmarried, she is one of the most valuable assets he possesses. She is not his daughter in his eyes. She is his greatest investment. And that is precisely why she deliberately caused the scene. Compared to the agony of being burned alive at the stake, this minor burn means absolutely nothing. Her father and Catherine eventually turn to leave. Before walking out, he tells her to rest and promises to call a doctor. Isabella smiles sweetly and thanks him. Once they are gone, only Isabella and Tilda remain in the room. The atmosphere changes immediately. Isabella quietly calls Tilda closer, telling her she has something important to show her. Then she deliberately reveals more of the injury on her hand and calmly asks whether Tilda finally understands why her father fears even a single scratch on her body. Personally, Isabella does not care. But her father certainly does. Still, physical marks are not the only thing capable of destroying someone. Isabella then quietly reveals her real plan. If rumors begin spreading that she and Kaiden Blake are involved in some kind of scandalous relationship, her father will panic. He will do everything possible to protect her image, even if it means taking desperate measures. Before Tilda can apologize or protest, Isabella suddenly shoves her hard enough to make her stumble. Then she coldly warns her to be very careful with what she says from now on. After all, Isabella is extremely confident in her ability to act like a perfectly innocent victim whenever she needs to. After warning Tilda to be more careful with her words, Isabella Leonard calmly tells her to gather the other maids and prepare a bath made specifically with warm rose water. Then, with a sweet smile that carries a hidden threat, she adds that next time anyone wishes to enter her room, they should remember to knock first. If Tilda wants to keep her hands intact and still be able to carry her grandchildren one day, she would be wise not to forget it. As the bath is prepared, Isabella quietly sinks into the warm rose water and allows herself a moment of thought. Watching the maids move around her, she reflects on how similar human instincts are to those of animals. No matter how civilized they pretend to be, people naturally create hierarchies and unconsciously decide who stands above or below them. If that is human nature, then she decides she might as well make full use of her position and authority. As one maid begins tending to the burn on her hand, Isabella immediately corrects her, explaining that burns should first be cooled under running water instead of being treated carelessly. The maid quickly bows and hurries off to prepare it properly. Soon, the atmosphere in the room begins changing. The other maids openly admire her flawless skin, her soft features, and the elegance she naturally carries. One of them shyly offers her a cherry, which Isabella accepts with a smile, taking a delicate bite that causes the others to laugh in admiration. Another compliments her hair, admitting that many of them have secretly wanted to take care of her because she is far prettier than they imagined. They timidly ask if they may serve her again in the future. Isabella smiles and casually remarks that it would be exhausting for her to become even more beautiful than she already is, causing the room to fill with laughter once more. Later that day, Isabella goes to visit her father, Isabella's father. The moment she enters, he asks how her hand is doing. She calmly tells him that the doctor says it should heal very soon. He then asks why she has come, warning her that if she intends to argue about the academy again, he has no plans to change his decision. In her previous life, Isabella had dreamed of becoming a doctor. She once defied her father, enrolled in the academy, and pursued knowledge despite his opposition. But after returning to the past, she already possesses all the medical knowledge she once worked so hard to gain. There is no reason to repeat those years. So instead of arguing, she calmly tells him that she no longer wishes to attend the academy. What she wants now is for him to prepare for her debut into high society. Her father slowly lifts his head in complete surprise. After everything she went through just to enroll in the academy, he can hardly believe his daughter is now asking to enter noble society instead. Isabella lowers her gaze slightly and explains that after being hurt, she has realized how immature and childish she has been. She also says that through all of it, she finally understands how much he treasures her. Now, she wants to become someone useful to House Collins. Hearing those words, her father smiles with satisfaction. He tells her that it gladdens him to see his daughter finally understanding her true position. He promises to help her find a suitable husband among the nobility. But Isabella immediately adds one condition. She wants to choose her husband herself. Her father raises an eyebrow and asks whether this is just another childish fantasy about romance. Instead of answering directly, Isabella sits across from him and begins playing chess. As she moves her pieces, she casually brings up the conflict between Viscount Lightman and Baron Froid. Though both men serve the same master, their relationship is worse than that of strangers. She explains that the reason lies with Baroness Froid, who was once Viscount Lightman's first love. When she chose another man instead, he lost all hope and entered a miserable marriage. Unfortunately, his wife later discovered the truth, turning the situation into a scandal. Her father stops moving his chess piece and asks how she knows so much about noble affairs. With a calm smile, Isabella simply tells him that she reads a lot. The truth, however, is very different. Before turning back time, she read countless newspapers, articles, and social magazines. Every scandal, every political conflict, every hidden grudge among the aristocracy had become second nature to her. Looking directly into her father's eyes, she tells him that she understands how the royal family and the great noble houses are connected. She knows their alliances, their weaknesses, and even the grudges they hide behind polite smiles. That knowledge alone should be enough for him to trust her judgment. She then reveals her intention. She plans to find a man who possesses everything: wealth, status, power, and appearance. After growing up under her father's influence, she simply cannot lower herself to an ordinary man. After all, her value as his daughter is just as high as his own ambitions. Her father studies her carefully before asking what happens if she fails. Without hesitation, Isabella replies that if she fails, she will marry whoever he chooses. Her father quietly thinks it over. In truth, he has nothing to lose. Eventually, he gives his permission. He even offers to assign a trustworthy chaperone to accompany her in case anything inappropriate happens during her debut. But Isabella immediately rejects one name, Catherine Richmond. Her father asks why. Though Isabella burns with hatred toward Catherine, she cannot reveal that yet. So instead, she calmly explains that Catherine has been active in high society for years, yet she has not produced any truly outstanding results. If Isabella is going to make her move, she wants to do it properly. Instead, she asks to go with her mother, Lily Leonard. In truth, Isabella knows that if Lily appears in society again, it may become the perfect opportunity for her mother to reconnect with the Emperor and begin reclaiming what was stolen from her. Her father quickly realizes how valuable such a move could be and gives his approval. Later that evening, Lily visits Isabella privately. With concern in her eyes, she asks whether her daughter truly no longer wants to attend the academy because of her father. Isabella immediately reassures her that it has nothing to do with him. But she knows her mother needs a reason that will ease her worries. So with a shy expression, she quietly says that she has fallen in love with someone. Lily's eyes widen in complete shock. Isabella continues, explaining that he is a nobleman. She admits that she was drawn to him because of how handsome he is, though she does not even know his name yet. She tells her mother that she wants to find him and asks for her help with her debut. Lily's expression softens almost instantly. Smiling warmly, she tells Isabella that social season is the perfect time for such things, and if her daughter truly wants this, she will gladly help. Just then, a knock sounds at the door. Lily tells the maid to come in. The maid bows and apologizes, announcing that a guest has arrived to see Lady Isabella. Before she can finish, the guest walks in on his own. And standing there is Caden Blake. He calmly enters the room, crosses one leg over the other, and silently watches Isabella. Inwardly, only one thought crosses his mind. If only his wife knew how impatient he truly was. Caden Blake enters the room calmly, greeting everyone as he steps inside. The moment he addresses Lily Leonard with respect, she immediately corrects him, telling him to call her Countess Collins instead of anything that might attract unnecessary attention or complications. Isabella watches the exchange quietly, briefly remembering a past moment when she had insisted on rejecting her father's name during their contract, purely out of hatred for him. For a moment, she wonders if Caden remembers that day too. Something about his expression makes her think he does, even if he is not saying it openly. Lily, observing him more closely, remarks that it has been a long time since she last saw him. The last time must have been when he was only about 6 years old, and now he stands before her as a fully grown man. Caden replies calmly that he is feeling better, and that it feels almost miraculous that his mana torrent has finally subsided. He thanks her sincerely for her concern. Lily then asks the reason for his visit, specifically whether he came to see Isabella. Before Caden can explain properly, Lily leans slightly toward her daughter and whispers whether he could possibly be the one. Caden, however, interrupts her assumption almost immediately and explains that he came for his cat, saying it seems to have run off and is currently missing. Lily looks surprised and asks why he would think Isabella took someone else's cat. Caden explains that she likely did not know, since the cat escaped on its own, and he simply followed its trail after leaving his carriage, only to find no trace of it. Lily laughs lightly, saying cats are known for hiding well, and the atmosphere briefly relaxes. Caden casually takes a piece of chocolate, eats it, and keeps his gaze fixed on Isabella. She quickly looks away, pretending not to notice. Not long after, Caden asks to speak with Isabella alone, giving the excuse that his cat might run off again if too many people are around. Lily, understanding the situation in her own way, quietly excuses herself but leans toward Isabella before leaving, whispering that she should be nice to him. The maids follow her out with visible concern, leaving the room noticeably quieter. Once they are alone, Caden's tone changes slightly. He asks Isabella how she has been, addressing her with an unexpectedly affectionate, his darling. Isabella immediately reacts, asking if he is sane, reminding him that it has only been a few days since they last met and pointing out that he even arrived without a carriage. Caden responds casually that a carriage would be pointless since he can simply fly, adding that she should already be used to the fact that he is, in his own words, a little insane. He then presents her with a flower, calling it a gift. He admits that if he had known how pleasant it feels to be around her like this, he would have completed their contract much sooner. Isabella immediately shuts down the idea, telling him that it is not time yet and that she still needs to properly set the stage for their plan. Caden leans closer, saying he came because he wanted something and could not even sleep properly due to the desire to have it. His sudden closeness makes Isabella panic internally, especially since she knows how unstable he can be. She reminds herself that although she agreed to act as his wife in name, she is not prepared for anything beyond the plan, especially with maids outside the room. Noticing her tension, Caden asks what she is thinking. She quickly changes the subject and says it is not the right time for anything like that and insists she needs to take a bath. Caden immediately brightens at the mention of a bath and asks whether she is the type to bathe Muser herself. Isabella, briefly relieved that the topic shifted, confirms that the cat does need bathing. Kaiden then asks what else she was thinking about, but she deflects again, commenting that he also looks like he does not bathe Muser properly, since the cat often looks untidy. Kaiden casually replies that he does not mind doing things without a bath either. He then leans in again, even closer than before, and tells her she looks perfect just the way she is. Isabella, growing more flustered, tells him she already knows he is insane but did not expect him to also behave like someone seeking attention. Kaiden simply asks what kind of person she thinks he is. When she internally wonders if he can read her thoughts, he remarks that her expressions are easy to read, and that even demons would find her words harsh enough to cry. He walks over to a chair and sits down, continuing the conversation. He mentions that he has heard she once made someone cry before, so he is quite certain she would make a fitting demon's bride. Isabella tries to ask how he knows that, but her attention shifts when she notices Muser. She suddenly realizes the cat must have been the source of his information. Kaiden immediately tells her not to stare at Muser like that, explaining that it is only doing its job as a lesser demon. He also admits that her earlier comment about not caring for her body was slightly hurtful to him. Isabella cuts the conversation short and redirects it back to their plans. She explains that she has already told her father she intends to debut into high society and that Kaiden should appear as often as possible so a scandal can naturally develop. Kaiden agrees immediately, saying he will do whatever his wife wants, and then asks when she intends to officially marry. Isabella explains that she first needs to receive multiple marriage proposals as part of her plan. Kaiden reacts with mild amusement, commenting that it is quite bold to say that in front of her husband. She insists it is all just performance, but Kaiden bends down and gently kisses her hand, telling her to treat it as part of a dramatic romance. If he is meant to be the main actor, he is more than willing to play his role. Isabella is caught off guard by how obedient he is compared to his earlier intensity in the Magic Tower. She wonders why he has suddenly become so compliant. Kaiden then asks if she likes it and even requests a pat as approval for doing well, insisting that obedience should be rewarded. For a brief moment, Isabella is reminded of her childhood dog, Lulu, and notices how similar his behavior is, seeking praise and affection so openly. Smiling faintly, she calls him a good boy. The moment the words leave her mouth, Kaiden suddenly pulls her closer and immediately asks who Lulu is. The question immediately pulls Isabella Leonard into a brief flashback. For a moment, she recalls her childhood, the small warm memories of playing with her dog Lulu, in a time when life felt simpler and far less dangerous. Kaiden watches her expression shift, and, as if reading her thoughts, answers his own question calmly, correctly guessing that Lulu was her childhood dog. He then asks if it is difficult for her to control her thoughts around him. Isabella replies honestly that it is only difficult because he keeps behaving in unexpected ways. She explains that when he leans closer like this, he reminds her of Lulu, though she quickly adds that the dog was far cuter than he is. Kaiden accepts the comparison without offense, quietly deciding that it is something he should work on. Isabella then softens slightly and admits that his appearance is indeed attractive, even pretty, but she insists that it should be treated like admiring a work of art rather than something deeper. He should not misunderstand it. Kaiden, however, remarks that he already understands everything. He reminds her that at the beginning, her mind was filled with revenge and resentment, which is precisely why she made the contract with him in the first place. Because of that, there is nothing for him to misunderstand. He reassures her that he is only teasing her because her reactions are entertaining. Isabella then changes the subject and asks permission to keep Muser a little longer, explaining that it would help create more opportunities for them to meet and strengthen their plan. Kaiden immediately agrees, calling her darling and saying he will leave Muser with her for now. Internally, he finds her increasingly interesting. Early the next morning at House Collins Manor, the quiet is broken when a male figure enters without warning, calling out to Isabella and questioning whether she has forgotten how to greet him. The intruder is Jeffrey Richmond, the only son of Marquess Richmond, and someone who has known Isabella since childhood. Without hesitation, Isabella tells him she is not happy to see him and demands to know why he did not knock before entering. Jeffrey replies bluntly that he no longer sees the need to respect her privacy. He teases her, saying that a daughter of a count should be careful with her behavior because no one would want to marry a scary woman like her. Isabella immediately tells him to leave if he is only there to cause trouble, as she is busy. This triggers a brief flashback to 2 days earlier, after Kaiden's visit, when the maids gossiped that he could not take his eyes off her even until the moment he left. Because of that incident, the servants had started pampering her excessively, something Isabella found more exhausting than flattering. Back in the present, Jeffrey says he came because he is disappointed and expected her to behave differently. Isabella asks what he means, and he bluntly says her sudden decision to find a husband is unreasonable. She confirms that news of her debut has already reached him, and he questions when she became interested in being dolled up. She smiles and tells him not to misunderstand, adding that he is not even on her list of candidates. Jeffrey quickly denies any romantic intention, though he then admits he did bring something for her. He hands her a box saying it is a pair of shoes, and explaining a saying about shoes leading one to good places, implying she should end up somewhere good, as she leaves high society life behind. Isabella opens it and finds an elegant pair of shoes inside. She immediately interprets it as a disguised insult and remarks that he is telling her to leave. Jeffrey responds irritably that she should not twist his words and adds that she does not act like someone older than him anyway, so he does not feel obligated to respect her age. When she questions why he would take back a gift, he suddenly kneels and insists that if she receives something, she should properly show it off. Without waiting for permission, he begins placing the shoes on her feet, saying he will replace them if they do not fit. Isabella, slightly surprised, mutters that they are pretty. Jeffrey freezes, asking her to repeat herself. She smiles and says again that they are very pretty, leaving him momentarily stunned. Trying to recover, he accuses her of suddenly acting nice because she must be attracted to wealth. That is when Isabella notices a small cut on his hand and asks about it. Jeffrey dismisses it as a training injury and tells her not to worry, but she immediately retrieves a first aid kit and insists he sit down. As she tends to the wound, she comments that it is hard to believe the baby commander could get injured like this and expresses concern for the Western forces. Jeffrey quietly replies that he should be the one worrying about her instead. He then brings up her decision to abandon her dream of entering the academy to become a doctor. He reminds her of their childhood, when she would only play doctor games with him, and even treated him like a patient back then. Isabella, meanwhile, wonders why he suddenly appeared after being absent for so long. She tells him she simply grew tired of that dream and decided to focus on her debut in high society instead. Jeffrey's expression turns serious as he warns her about the dangers of noble society, mentioning rumors of deceitful men who use grand promises just to take advantage of women and ruin reputations. He asks her what his point is, and finally states it directly. He wants to be her escort to the debutante ball. Jeffrey Richmond insists again that he wants to accompany Isabella Leonard to the debutante ball. Isabella sits in silence for a moment before he calls her name again, as if trying to pull her back into the conversation. When she finally responds, she makes it clear that if he is offering to be her official partner, she declines politely. She prefers to attend alone. Jeffrey immediately counters that he does not mean as a romantic partner, but as her guard, explaining that there will likely be strange men targeting her at the event. He reminds her that he is the commander of knights and can easily handle such situations. Isabella, unfazed, replies calmly that if anything like that happens, she would simply cut them so they could never have children again, adding that a surgical knife would be perfect for the job. Jeffrey pauses, staring at her in disbelief, and asks if she has lost her mind. She only repeats her question, pressing him. Does he want to come with her or not? She tells him that if he can just admit it directly, she will consider it. He stubbornly refuses, insisting he will not say it. Isabella shrugs and says she will manage fine with her surgical knife. With no other option left, Jeffrey groans in frustration and finally admits that he wants to accompany her. Isabella immediately smiles, clearly satisfied. A few days later at House Collins Manor, the sitting room becomes lively when Catherine Richmond arrives announcing that she has brought tailors from the top 5 boutiques in the empire. At her signal, the tailors quickly enter, eager and prepared. It is clear that after being rejected as Isabella's chaperone, Catherine has chosen another approach, using fashion and presentation to regain influence over the debut process. Lily Leonard thanks her warmly, saying this will be a great help for Isabella's debut. Catherine responds politely, though her intention is more strategic than generous. Isabella quietly observes that Catherine is likely trying to reassert authority through appearance since she was excluded from the role of chaperone. Catherine's attention soon shifts to Isabella's shoes. She asks about them, and Isabella casually replies that they were a gift from Jeffrey. Lily reacts slightly, clearly surprised, and Catherine's expression tightens for a moment. She asks again, confirming if it was truly Jeffrey, adding that he usually avoids social events under the excuse of training. She comments that he likely lacks confidence rather than being truly busy. Isabella simply explains that it was probably concern, since they grew up together. Catherine's reaction hardens, and she quickly redirects the conversation, insisting they proceed with selections from the Leblanc boutique. One of the tailors immediately begins presenting dresses, and Isabella is soon guided into trying them on. The attendants shower her with praise, saying the designs suit her perfectly and that she is the only one who could carry them so effortlessly. One even becomes emotional, overwhelmed by how many exquisite designs she is trying on. Isabella, however, quietly sighs and complains that the dress is too tight and feels like it is crushing her organs. She remarks that once her mother becomes empress, she will ban corsets entirely. The room erupts into more praise, comparing her beauty to Lily's youth and elegance. Catherine adds that Isabella is even more beautiful than her mother, while Isabella casually refers to her as her childhood idol, calling her Lady LeBlanc. Catherine flicks her fingers, signaling for more dresses to be brought in, and the tailors eagerly comply. For a while, Isabella moves through gowns from all 5 boutiques, from princess-level designs to outfits described as fit for goddesses. Though slightly exaggerated, the experience leaves her feeling as though she has tried on every dress in the empire. Lily hugs her warmly, praising her effort. Catherine then asks if she liked any of the dresses. Isabella calmly replies that she did not like any of them. The room falls slightly tense. She explains that while the dresses are beautiful, none of them truly moved her or felt right. She subtly adds that House Collins has a particular taste, and she intends to reflect that. Her words carry a hidden edge aimed at Catherine's influence. Catherine's expression darkens in anger. Lily quickly steps in, apologizing on Isabella's behalf and thanking Catherine for her effort. However, The atmosphere remains divided, with no one fully supporting Catherine's position. At that moment, Tilda steps in and whispers something to Lily. Catherine watches closely, trying to read the situation, wondering whether Isabella is simply being difficult or genuinely unstable. Catherine offers Isabella time to reconsider, but both Lily and Isabella politely thank her and decline any pressure. Lily then excuses herself briefly, and Catherine mentions she will soon leave for urgent matters. Before stepping out, Catherine turns back to Isabella and warns her coldly that even if she chooses another boutique, it will be pointless. When Isabella asks why, Catherine states bluntly that she will destroy the reputation of any boutique that dares design for her. Tilda immediately steps forward, trying to calm the situation and urging Isabella to apologize. She even adds that Isabella has no sense of fashion because she spends all her time reading. Isabella, already aware of Tilda's attitude, brushes her off and pushes her hand away. She tells Catherine directly to do as she pleases, adding that people would probably be happier seeing her without a dress anyway. Catherine, insulted, calls her shameless for such vulgar words. Isabella fires back just as sharply, implying Catherine is no stranger to indecency herself and questioning whether she agrees with that interpretation. The tension spikes instantly. Catherine raises her hand as if ready to strike, but before anything happens, Lily's voice cuts through the room from behind. Everyone freezes as Lily demands an explanation for what is going on. Catherine Richmond, who quickly insists that Isabella was simply being rude. She then turns the question toward Isabella Leonard. Isabella lowers her head and apologizes softly, saying she did not intend any disrespect. Instead of escalating further, Lily Leonard immediately apologizes on her daughter's behalf. However, her tone shifts sharply afterward. She states firmly that as Isabella's mother, she should be the one correcting her, not outsiders interfering in her upbringing. Then she directly calls Catherine out for overstepping her boundaries. Catherine, visibly startled, stutters and asks what Lily means. Lily calmly explains that she is aware Catherine visited the manor a few days earlier, on the same day Isabella burned her hand with stew. She adds that she feels uncomfortable when Catherine appears uninvited and instructs her to only come when she is personally called, just like today, and just like things used to be in the palace. The implication carries history. Back when Catherine's mother, Viscountess Baker, served as the princess's nanny, she devoted herself entirely to caring for the young Lily. Because of that devotion, her own daughter was often sidelined. Catherine was left in the position of nothing more than a childhood playmate to the princess, rather than someone truly prioritized. Catherine stands frozen, unable to respond. Then, without another word, she turns and leaves the room, slamming the door behind her. Silence follows. Lily then calls for Tilda. She tells her she already knows about her grandson. Tilda immediately brightens, smiling as she says the boy is very adorable. Lily gently tells her to take this chance to go stay with him and rest. She adds that from the next day onward, Tilda will no longer be required to work in the manor. Tilda's expression slowly shifts as the meaning sinks in. Lily continues, saying that she had been too lenient for too long. She compares it to a dog blindly following whoever it is attached to, without understanding the consequences of its actions. Only now has she realized the mistake, and so she will be loosening the leash so Tilda can return to her rightful place. Tilda collapses to the ground in shock, suddenly realizing she has been dismissed. She begs for mercy, confused and panicked, wondering why Lily, who used to smile gently at everything, has suddenly changed. Before anything else can be said, a maid knocks and enters, announcing that Lady Isabella's bath is ready. However, she freezes when she sees Tilda on the floor. Tension spikes instantly. The maid awkwardly drops a jar in her hand, then quickly apologizes, claiming it slipped due to its weight. Isabella Leonard simply smiles at the scene, while Tilda burns with rage, demanding to know why she would do such a thing. The maid repeats her excuse, insisting it was an accident, but internally, she feels no remorse, thinking Tilda deserves it for her treatment of Isabella. Lily steps in and asks whether it was truly a mistake. The maid confirms that it was. Lily then hands Tilda a cloth and instructs her to clean herself. She announces that Tilda's duties will be transferred to another maid, Alice, by the end of the day. She then calmly asks if Isabella's bath is ready, and adds that she would also like one prepared. Alice, briefly stunned, processes the sudden opportunity and realizes she may be stepping into a higher position. With a firm voice, she thanks Lily. Isabella gently pats her shoulder, silently acknowledging the moment. Later, during their bath, Lily tells Isabella that Catherine will return. When Isabella asks why, Lily simply replies that she has a feeling. Her smile is faint, but her expression carries a quiet loneliness. It becomes clear that Lily and Catherine share a long history, stretching back to when Lily was still a princess. Even after Lily lost her title, they remained connected in some way. Isabella reflects silently, realizing she once thought her mother was too forgiving, too willing to smile and overlook Catherine's actions simply because of friendship. Now, she begins to suspect there may be deeper reasons behind it, possibly even knowledge of the affair she has long suspected. Lily notices her silence and asks what she is thinking about. She wonders if it is about the dress incident, explaining that she invited Catherine to help without realizing Isabella would dislike all the designs. She gently apologizes again, rubbing Isabella's cheek. Isabella quickly reassures her that she was simply being picky, then adds that she already has a dress in mind. A few days later, in Isabella's room, a maid from House Collins, Jenna, is visibly surprised when Isabella requests a favor. It is already unusual for a maid to sit at the same table as her mistress, let alone be asked for something so personal. Jenna immediately insists she should be given an order instead, but Isabella shakes her head. She says she cannot command this. It is something only Jenna can help with, because she is the daughter of Olivia and her only successor. Lily, who is present, explains that she already told Isabella about the injustices her mother, Olivia, once suffered. Lily Leonard begins by telling Isabella Leonard the story of how she met Olivia. It all started after Lily returned from ending the war with the demon world. On her way back, she fell into a muddy puddle, and Olivia helped her without hesitation. Olivia even offered her a dress she had personally made. Lily was deeply impressed, describing it as perfect. From that moment, she asked Olivia to create her debutante dress. When Olivia arrived in the capital, her exceptional sewing skills quickly gained attention. The dress she created for the princess, known as the Flower of the Empire, shook high society. Fame and wealth followed almost instantly, and Olivia rose to a level of success many could only dream of. But that happiness did not last. When the emperor disowned Lily, everything connected to her collapsed as well. Olivia's reputation shifted overnight from needle fairy to needle demon. Rumors spread that her dresses were dangerous, that even her needles brought harm, and that there was a reason low-born commoners should never rise in society. Her boutique suffered constant defamation, as if someone was deliberately spreading false accusations. Unable to recover from the damage and emotional shock, Olivia eventually passed away. After her death, Lily took in her daughter Jenna, who had been left alone. Lily then asks if it was truly Jenna who once made dresses for Isabella's dolls when she was younger, during the times Isabella stayed indoors reading all day. She notes that Isabella seemed to love those dresses deeply, just like she herself had once admired Olivia's work. Lily gently calls Jenna again and asks if she would be willing to take responsibility for making Isabella's debutante dress. Isabella then leads Jenna to a wardrobe filled with dresses her mother wore during her time as a princess. She suggests that if creating something new is difficult, she does not mind altering one of them instead. Jenna immediately refuses. She says she will not modify anything her mother made for Lily. If she is to sew anything, it must be completely new, just as her mother once did. Then she asks what kind of dress Isabella wants. Isabella touches a peach-toned gown and says she likes that one. She explains that it was originally designed by Jenna and once worn during a New Year celebration. She adds softly that it was also the day she believes Lily met her father, Isabella's father, and fell in love at first sight, calling it a moment of destiny that eventually led to Isabella's existence. She adds that because of that, she is grateful to be born. Isabella then asks how long the dress will take to complete. Jenna replies that it will take about 10 days since she already has the pattern, though it could be finished sooner if she works day and night. Lily immediately offers support, saying she will rearrange schedules if needed and asks if Jenna requires anything else. After thinking for a moment, Jenna asks for permission to call former colleagues, workers who used to serve at her mother's boutique. She explains that they are currently scattered, working different jobs after their reputations were destroyed. Lily and Isabella agree immediately and ask if they can be brought in right away. Jenna confirms they can, since none of them have been able to find stable employment after the scandal. She quickly apologizes for speaking too much, but Lily interrupts, saying she should be the one apologizing instead. At that moment, Isabella remembers Catherine's earlier threat about destroying any boutique that worked with her. She realizes, with cold clarity, that such destruction had already happened years ago to Olivia's workshop. To support Jenna properly, Isabella offers to pay generously, telling her to focus entirely on the dress. Jenna thanks her sincerely and promises to dedicate everything she has to complete it. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the manor, Isabella's father questions Isabella's refusal of all the boutique dresses. Before he can continue, Lily calmly invites him to sit and have tea. He asks if it is not a mother's responsibility to discipline a stubborn child. Lily responds that it is also a husband's duty to keep his promises, reminding him that they agreed to share tea together once a week, but he has already missed 3 weeks. Ignoring her complaint, he insists that she should ask Catherine while there is still time. Lily pauses, confused, and quietly repeats, "Catherine?" She then asks when they became so familiar with each other that he now refers to her so casually. Realizing his slip, he quickly corrects himself, saying he must have spoken carelessly since he often hears Lily use Catherine's name. He tries to shift the conversation by commenting on the tea's fragrance and asking if it is from new leaves. Lily accepts the change in tone but calmly redirects him back, saying she will not force Isabella to wear anything she dislikes. No matter how much they oppose her, she will ultimately choose for herself. Her husband questions why she is so firm about this. Lily answers simply, because Isabella is her daughter, and she will make her own decisions and face her own consequences. She asks him to trust her judgment, saying Isabella is smarter than most people realize. Frustrated, he stands up, declaring that everything she says is irritating and that he is done with tea. Just then, a knock interrupts them. Alice announces that Lady Isabella wishes to see him. The timing surprises him. He invites her in immediately, and the moment Isabella enters, dressed in a breathtaking gown, he is left completely stunned. Chapter 13. Isabella tells him that she is only trying out her new dress. She says she came simply to show it to him and asks what he thinks of it, waiting for his opinion. A few days later at House Collins Manor, Muser reminds Isabella that she still agreed to divorce after 1 year. Isabella calmly replies that she has not forgotten. Muser then tells her she should stop sitting idle and get to work, but she insists the bait has already been set and she is simply waiting for it to be caught. On the surface, it may look like she is doing nothing, but in reality, she is carefully preparing her next move. A knock comes at the door. It is Benjamin. Isabella invites him in. Benjamin, a loyal and efficient servant of House Collins, immediately asks if she only wants fruits for her meal. She confirms it without hesitation, explaining that she will soon be wearing her dress and does not want a heavy meal. When she asks why he has come, he informs her that the master wishes to have breakfast with her and is waiting at the greenhouse. Isabella freezes for a moment in surprise. Without giving her time to respond, Benjamin simply leaves. She sighs, noting that her father never bothers to consider what she wants and always acts in his own way. She then instructs him to call Alice because she cannot go to meet her father dressed casually. Meanwhile, at the greenhouse, Benjamin stands beside Isabella's father as he asks where she is. It has already been 2 hours and she has still not arrived. Just then, Isabella enters. She apologizes for being late, explaining that it is her first time having a private meal with him and she spent too long choosing what to wear. He replies coldly that he does not care what she wears and tells her to be quicker next time. Despite his tone, Isabella quietly nods, unusually emotional. Her father notices this immediately. She is not someone who usually shows emotion, so her reaction confuses him. He recalls how she cried after burning her hand and how she wore that dress afterward, as if it meant something deeper. He decides to question her directly. He asks if she remembers the dress she wore last time. Isabella answers innocently that it was her mother's dress, the one worn during a New Year celebration when her mother was still a princess, the same dress tied to the day her parents first met. He asks if she chose it herself. She replies that it was not about personal preference, only what was best for the family. Then she smiles and adds something sharper. Her goal is not simply finding a husband. Her goal is Emperor David von Leonard II himself. The father bursts into laughter, dismissing it as an absurd joke. He reminds her that even the highest nobles cannot approach the emperor so easily, and asks how she plans to reach him. She leans forward slightly and asks what he would do if her mother, Lily Leonard, were reinstated as princess again. He scoffs, saying 20 years have already passed and doubts the emperor would even think of her anymore. Isabella replies that that is exactly why it would work. She references knowledge from the tragic princess, explaining that after the crown prince disappeared, the emperor never properly appointed a successor. Even the second prince had approached him, questioning why the position remained vacant despite him being grown. The emperor's response had been vague, offering something else instead of a direct answer. Her father finally realizes she has thought far ahead of what he expected. He asks if she is truly confident in this plan. Isabella replies calmly that she at least knows what she must avoid. Then she raises a finger and names Catherine Richmond, stating clearly that she must never align with her. Catherine, she explains, is deeply connected to the second prince's political faction. If House Collins accepts her influence now, the emperor will not approve. Her father then asks if this is why she chose her mother's dress. Isabella confirms it is the smartest move. At worst, she can claim she simply borrowed it in a hurry. At best, it will trigger something deeper in the emperor, memories of the daughter he once lost and the woman he once loved. She then asks her father if it is not true that parents naturally respond when a child reaches out first, just as he once held her hand. He replies, slightly amused, that he did not expect her to be so thorough in fulfilling her role. Internally, he is stunned by how far ahead she is thinking. He begins to imagine a far more advantageous future. If Lily becomes empress, he would become the empress's husband and father of the future empress's ally. Even if things fail, he still has Catherine as a fallback. Either way, he believes he cannot lose. Satisfied with his own calculations, he laughs. Isabella's father reflects on his past and the choices that shaped his current position. He remembers how he once knelt and desperately pleaded with Lily Leonard to date him when she became the most admired young noblewoman in society. Lily eventually accepted him, but their relationship caused her to sever ties with the emperor, which also led to severe political consequences for him. Because of the fallout, he was excluded from many business opportunities and forced into dependence on shifting imperial factions. Now, he considers the present situation and realizes that if Lily and the emperor reconcile, he could escape his reliance on the second prince's faction, which would be far more advantageous. With this in mind, he decides to support Isabella and hands her financial assistance in the form of a blank check, telling her she can use it freely and request more if necessary. Isabella thanks him warmly. Later, Isabella studies the blank check in her room with satisfaction. Muser notices her expression and asks if she is that happy. She replies that she dislikes people but not their money, noting that playing the role of a pitiful daughter has proven quite profitable. While she speaks with Muser, a sudden presence makes her cautious. She tells him he should inform her before Kaiden Blake arrives, but Muser insists Kaiden has been unpredictable and often ignores attempts to reach him. Isabella blames him anyway and moves to open the door, only to find no one outside. Before she can react, a figure appears behind her. Kaiden covers her eyes and greets her affectionately, asking how she has been. When she questions him, he admits he is up to no good, teasing her until she becomes flustered. He hugs her, but she pushes him away and demands an explanation. Kaiden reveals he brought her a gift, a necklace designed to detect when his contract partner is in danger so he can protect her. He also insists she must not attend social events or the debutante ball with Muser. Muser reacts with visible displeasure, while Isabella assumes Kaiden is joking or provoking her. He explains that the necklace must be connected through a mana link and asks if she will allow it. After hesitation, she agrees and he places it around her neck. He smiles afterward, clearly satisfied. Muser reacts again, drawing attention, and both Isabella and Kaiden turn toward him. At the same moment, Jeffrey Richmond is present, trying to calm Muser and insisting he is not a stranger since they met previously. Jeffrey searches the area, wondering where Isabella might be, assuming she could be on the terrace. Meanwhile, Isabella, sensing the situation becoming dangerous, clings tightly to Kaiden. Jeffrey opens the door again, finds no one inside, and becomes confused, wondering where she disappeared to. Meanwhile, Kaiden carries Isabella away through the night sky, holding her securely in his arms as she struggles to adjust to the height. Looking down makes her dizzy, and she wonders how far he intends to take her. Kaiden asks if she is afraid he might drop her, but instead of fear, she begins to feel something strange, an unfamiliar electricity running through her body. Her heartbeat becomes louder and more intense, and she instinctively clings to him. Kaiden notices her reaction and becomes slightly flustered himself, sensing a strange response from his own body tied to their contract. He briefly fights an unusual urge before regaining control, blaming the cold night air from flying. Isabella also assumes he may be affected by the cold and suggests it might be a fever. He breaks the tension by telling her that since they are already in the sky, she should tell him where she has always wanted to go. Isabella replies that she has always wanted to visit the clock tower since childhood. Kaiden agrees immediately and takes her there, instructing her to hold on tightly. They soon arrive at the top of the Empire's largest clock tower. Isabella is amazed, noting she never imagined such a place existed above the city. Kaiden then brings up the man who came looking for her. Referring to what Muser mentioned earlier, he asks about her connection with Jeffrey Richmond. Isabella quickly clarifies that there is nothing romantic between them, explaining that Jeffrey is simply a childhood friend. She adds that while others might find it hard to believe, their relationship is purely platonic. Kaiden responds that he does not intend to interfere in her personal life, but reminds her that they are bound by a contract. However, he cannot hide his discomfort at the idea of another man being close to her. He then admits that he has been unable to read her thoughts for some time, possibly since the necklace was placed on her, though he chooses not to reveal this to her. Isabella questions whether he is also vulgar and wicked, making him momentarily speechless. She then defends Jeffrey, saying it is unfair to judge him that way, which irritates Kaiden further. He insists that Jeffrey is still suspicious, especially after learning he wanted to accompany her to the debutante ball. Kaiden also mentions the gift Jeffrey gave her, expressing dislike and saying she should not wear it for her own safety. Isabella quietly reflects that she is not angry at Kaiden's possessiveness, even though his words are harsh. At that moment, Kaiden receives an urgent message from Muser reporting that Jeffrey has gathered a search party after Isabella disappeared. Kaiden looks down and sees activity below as knights begin searching the area. Watching this, Kaiden coldly remarks that he does not want Jeffrey breathing the same air as his wife, revealing the depth of his possessiveness as the situation begins to escalate. Muser reacts in disbelief. It smacks itself, clearly frustrated, as news spreads that Jeffrey Richmond has already deployed groups to search for Isabella Leonard. Isabella immediately asks what they should do. Kaiden considers the situation and concludes they need to quietly clean up the issue before it escalates further. Isabella suggests erasing memories, pointing out that he should be able to do it easily. However, Kaiden corrects her, saying she is speaking too casually. His power is still incomplete and he cannot erase the memories of multiple people at once. Isabella then simplifies the request, saying he only needs to erase the memory of one person, Jeffrey, whom she refers to as the pink insect. Kaiden agrees that Jeffrey is the only witness who confirmed her disappearance, but then suddenly shifts the conversation back to himself. He asks why she never calls him by his first name. Isabella smiles at his reaction, noticing his embarrassment as he turns away. She softly calls him by name, Kaiden, and promises to use it whenever they are alone. She then suggests they return home quickly before the search intensifies. Kaiden stretches his arms out and tells her to hug him if she does not want to be carried like luggage again. He urges her to hold on tightly and close her eyes since he will move quickly to resolve the situation. Before leaving, Isabella asks him not to harm Jeffrey. Kaiden agrees, though he adds coldly that he will not do so today. Back at the estate, Jeffrey Richmond continues searching for Isabella. As he moves through the manor, a voice suddenly calls from behind him. He freezes instantly, sensing an intruder. Drawing his sword, he turns sharply and points it at the figure behind him, Kaiden Blake. Jeffrey demands to know Isabella's whereabouts and warns that he will not forgive anyone who harms even a hair on her head. Kaiden calmly reads his thoughts and concludes that humans are indeed vulgar and wicked. He dismisses Jeffrey entirely. treating him as nothing more than a nuisance and tightening his grip on the sword with a smirk. Jeffrey struggles to move as an unusual pressure affects his body. Still, he insists Kaiden stop speaking so casually about Isabella, warning him to be careful or face consequences. As the others pass by, they spot him and rush over, calling out Commander and quickly lifting him up. Inside, Kaiden asks Isabella if she is okay, noticing that she is shaking. She explains that she usually gets cold when she goes outside and that she will feel better after some sleep. Kaiden wonders why he suddenly cannot read her mind anymore, especially since moments ago he could clearly hear Jeffrey's thoughts, whom he dismissively refers to as an insect. He tells her to get warm first and apologizes, covering her to keep her steady, hoping he has not caused her too much trouble. Isabella instructs Muser to go outside and watch for anyone approaching. Muser sighs but obeys, commenting that she always has requests. Left alone with Kaiden, she calls out to him and tells him she had fun tonight, insisting she wants to say it even if he already knows. She adds that the night sky was beautiful, and without him she would never have experienced it. Kaiden asks if she does not think the moment was pathetic, but she simply laughs and says she does not. He gently presses her hand to his face and asks if she thinks he is a dreadful demon. She smiles and says no, that he is just him. The moment stirs something in him, and he recalls his childhood in the magic tower, enduring his mana torrent alone, wishing someone would reassure him with warmth like this. For a brief moment, he feels the same comfort he once imagined. Soon after, she bids him goodbye as he leaves. Later, Kaiden sits alone, thinking about what he heard from Muser, that the pink mop guy admitted his mistake due to fatigue. He reflects on Isabella instead, her name feeling bright and delicate in his mind. He remembers their first meeting, when she stood before him with a sword and spoke absurdly without fear, like a pure field of untouched snow. He realizes he finds comfort in her thoughts, yet now something is wrong. He can no longer read them. He considers his ability as a demon, mind reading, something he often used to tease others, especially his contract partner. The loss unsettles him. He concludes it could be instability in his powers or a condition blocking them, but either way, it bothers him more than expected. When someone arrives and hands him a letter from his partner, Muser delivering Isabella's message, he realizes she has officially summoned him. It becomes the first time she directly calls for him. The next morning, Kaiden and Isabella arrive at a merchant company in the north. The merchant greets Kaiden and then Isabella, politely introducing himself as a duke who oversees the largest trading operations in the region. He takes Isabella's hand in greeting, but Kaiden immediately steps in, separating them and cutting the interaction short. The merchant explains how the northern trade system works, detailing imports, production, and seasonal goods for high society. He then subtly engages Isabella in conversation, which irritates Kaiden. The merchant quickly shifts and presents the items Kaiden had requested in advance. Isabella is stunned to see rows of shoes prepared for her. Kaiden explains he ordered them because she seems to like new footwear. He kneels and personally puts a pair on her, calling her pretty. She warns him about their surroundings, but he deliberately breaks the heel of her formal shoe, declaring it unusable. He claims that anything impure touching her disrupts his mana connection, so from now on, she will only wear what he provides. The atmosphere tightens as Kaiden's possessiveness becomes more direct and controlling, while Isabella remains caught between politeness, strategy, and the growing intensity of their contract bond. Kaiden grins widely as Isabella stares at him speechless. Of course, it is a ridiculous argument, but he only leans closer and whispers something to her. After a brief pause, she replies that she will. Later, Kaiden is seen lying comfortably with his head resting on Isabella's thigh. He suddenly calls out to Baronet Harfin and asks if he is capable of keeping secrets. The Baronet quickly assures him that he is, and Kaiden calmly tells him that everything he witnesses today must remain confidential, warning that he hates unnecessary trouble. The Baronet immediately agrees, saying he would never dare speak of it. Isabella looks down at Kaiden and asks what he is doing. He lazily responds that he is simply tired from carrying a certain someone, which makes her clench her fist in irritation as she calls him a jerk. She warns him to be quiet in case someone overhears them. Meanwhile, Baronet Harfin internally feels overwhelmed, wondering what unfortunate situation he has been dragged into. Kaiden suddenly senses his discomfort and asks if their conversation is bothering him. Confused, the Baronet asks him to repeat himself, pretending he has a hearing issue. Kaiden smirks and tells Isabella that the Baronet cannot hear anyway. Isabella immediately corrects him, insisting he should not speak like that. Kaiden then turns back to the Baronet and casually mentions that he heard his wife has excellent taste, suggesting he would like her assistance in selecting the most expensive items available. Then, as if reconsidering, he adds that they might as well send everything to them. He then asks Isabella for her opinion. She admits that she is struggling to choose because everything is appealing. Kaiden watches her with a faint smile, but Isabella notices the intensity in his gaze and briefly wonders how someone can look so handsome while being so troublesome. She then asks if he brought what she requested, a mana stone. Kaiden retrieves it, and the merchant explains its significance. The stone is a rare resource found only in Duke Blake's territory near the demon border, capable of storing and channeling mana. Because of its danger and value, only a small amount is mined and strictly controlled, though to the Duke's heir, it is little more than an ordinary stone. Isabella states that she intends to turn it into a brooch, mentioning she plans to give it to her father, explaining that it is time to set her second bait. Kaiden asks what she means by bait, and she reveals her true intention. She is not here for ordinary shopping, but to strategically drain House Collins' resources through high-profile spending. She leans toward Kaiden and asks what he thinks of her plan. He reacts with disbelief, especially when she casually states she will pay using the blank check she was given. The baronet, watching in shock, begins calculating the total cost, only for Isabella to interrupt and insist on determining the price herself. She takes a pen and writes down an amount. When the baronet sees it, he is stunned and asks if she is certain. She confidently confirms it, 200 million gold. He immediately corrects her, saying even everything in the shop would not come close to 3,000 gold. Kaiden realizes she may be attempting to manipulate the financial gap for personal advantage, while the baronet internally concludes that nobles often inflate figures for leverage. Kaiden insists on paying in full, but Isabella refuses, stating she wants to handle it herself. He argues that if he pays, it will count as a proper gift. The baronet stands frozen, unable to comprehend Kaiden's behavior, both funding everything and personally giving rare artifacts. He silently concludes that Kaiden is acting far more emotionally involved than expected and decides this situation will become very interesting in the days ahead. He bows and promises to send everything to the capital with them. A few days later, Isabella and her father sit together over tea. He asks about her preparations, and she confidently replies that everything is going smoothly thanks to his support. He then requests to see what she has purchased. Benjamin and Alice quickly bring in various items: accessories, gloves, fans, and an assortment of high-quality shoes. Her father is visibly satisfied and asks if that is all. Isabella confirms it also includes the necklace she is wearing. Then she presents the mana stone brooch. Her father examines it closely and asks why she bought such a thing, assuming it is a useless ruby brooch purchased at an absurd price of 200 million gold. Isabella immediately corrects him, stating it is not a ruby but a mana stone brooch. Her father immediately sends the maid and Benjamin away, but even after that, he still finds it difficult to believe her words. No matter how much he stares at her, he cannot understand how a girl like Isabella could possibly get her hands on mana stones. Before he could continue doubting her, Isabella calmly brings out a small bottle of lotion. She already expects this reaction from him, so she prepared proof in advance. Dropping a little of the liquid onto the mana stone, the stone instantly begins to sparkle brightly. She explains that the solution is used to test genuine mana stones, and that the reaction he just witnessed confirms its authenticity. If he still doubts her, he is free to verify it later himself. She really came prepared for every possible question. Her father falls silent while staring at the glowing stone. His shock only deepens because he cannot imagine how Isabella managed to obtain something this valuable. Isabella then explains that she recently took care of Lord Kaiden's cat, which is why he visited her in the first place. She reminds him that Kaiden also helped her prepare for her debut and even took her to a merchant shop to assist her. She further reveals that Kaiden plans to remain in the capital throughout the season. That information immediately makes her father suspicious. Kaiden is already old enough to seek a fiancé, but the matter becomes far more complicated when he remembers the history of House Blake. The North has always remained isolated due to its harsh terrain and political stance. Duke Blake rarely appears in noble society, and his marriage to a princess from the demon world only strengthened their separation from the capital. So why would Kaiden suddenly enter the social scene now? Why would House Blake suddenly show interest in the capital after remaining distant for so long? This is already sounding way bigger than a simple debut season. When her father questions her about it, Isabella explains that House Blake likely wants to expand its influence in the capital. She tells him they are searching for a stable source of income, so she suggested turning mana stones into wearable accessories that people could carry around easily. In return for her intelligent proposal, Kaiden gifted her the brooch. Her father then realizes why she spent 200 million gold. Isabella admits she wants to become the first customer and investor in the business. If House Blake truly begins this venture, they will eventually require a trustworthy partner within the central region, and she believes it is wise to secure that position early. Conveniently, their territory lies between the demon world and the capital, making her father the perfect choice. She hands him the mana stone and encourages him to use it himself. According to her, the mana stone contains magic that helps people sleep peacefully. The moment he hears that, he becomes visibly interested because he has been struggling with sleep for a long time. Isabella sweetly tells him that this special one was requested specifically for him and that from now on he will only have pleasant dreams. What he does not realize is that those peaceful dreams will continue only until the day he wakes up surrounded by flames. Oof. She really said sweet dreams while planning his downfall. Soon, the long-awaited day of Isabella's debut finally arrives. Jeffrey enters and is warmly welcomed by Lily, who immediately asks about his condition. She brings up the hallucinations he suffered from due to exhaustion, and even mentions how he collapsed near a tree in the garden. Worried for him, she urges him to stop overworking himself. Embarrassed, Jeffrey quietly assures her that he will listen. Sir Collins soon walks by and notices Jeffrey. After greeting him politely, he asks whether Jeffrey will accompany Isabella today since Lily cannot attend. Lily admits that she does not feel comfortable going because the event is taking place inside the palace. The memories tied to that place are still difficult for her to face. She asks him to look after Isabella carefully in her place, and Sir Collins confidently promises to chase away any suspicious men who dare approach her. When he asks about Catherine, Jeffrey explains that she will meet them directly at the palace. Their conversation suddenly comes to a stop as everyone turns toward the staircase. Isabella slowly walks down with graceful elegance, looking almost unreal in her beauty. She truly resembles an angel descending from above. She nervously asks Lily how she looks, and Lily becomes emotional while praising her beauty. To her, Isabella shines so brightly that it is almost blinding. Unable to believe how much her little daughter has grown, Lily becomes overwhelmed. Isabella then asks for a hug, but Lily hesitates because she fears ruining her carefully prepared outfit. Isabella reassures her that the dress can easily be fixed, and the two finally embrace. During the hug, Isabella notices that her mother is trembling far more than she is. Lily apologizes for not being able to accompany her to the palace, but Isabella gently tells her not to worry. She promises that she will quietly handle everything without creating chaos. She intends to reclaim everything that rightfully belongs to her, including her title and the family she treasures deeply. Lily smiles softly and jokingly reminds her not to get caught while doing it. Deep down, Isabella prays for the strength to accomplish her mission successfully. As she walks alongside her father, she asks about his sleep. He admits he barely rested because of excitement for the debut, but after sleeping briefly, his mind feels surprisingly refreshed and clear. Hearing that brings Isabella relief because after trying the Mana Stone herself, she knows exactly how effective it is. Jeffrey suddenly notices that Isabella is not wearing the shoes he gifted her. Isabella casually explains that she loved them so much she wore them too often until the heels eventually broke off. Meanwhile, Sir Collins quietly remembers the promise Isabella once made. If she failed, she agreed to marry without complaint and allow him to choose her husband. Thinking carefully, he concludes that if he truly had the right to decide, House Blake would be the best possible match for her. Standing proudly inside the palace in an elegant suit, Kaiden notices the whispers spreading around him. He wonders whether the nobles are talking about him while his eyes continue searching the area. At that moment, he quietly asks himself when his wife will finally arrive. Looks like someone is already impatiently waiting for her arrival. People gossip that Kaiden looks even more handsome than they expected, noting how attractive he appears despite having been locked away in the magic tower for years. He approaches a lady and clears his throat, causing her to panic as she realizes he may have heard her thoughts. She quickly walks away in embarrassment. It is ironic how people once pointed at him for being the son of a demon when he was not one. Yet, now that he is a demon, they desperately try to catch even a second of his attention. His thoughts drift elsewhere as he longs to see Isabella, and the fact that he can no longer hear her thoughts still pains him deeply. Whenever curiosity about her arises, everything else around him seems to fade into silence. She's starting to dominate his thoughts more and more. Isabella enters with her father, who urges her to greet a noble lady. She complies politely, receiving remarks about how much she has grown. As she moves forward, her eyes land on someone familiar, and she smiles. It is Kaiden. It is clear she has been wanting to see him as well. Suddenly, Jeffrey calls out from behind, asking her to wait. He claims he arrived even earlier and has been waiting patiently for her. She immediately calls him bothersome and orders him to stay at least 20 steps away from her. Kaiden then speaks up as he steps closer, greeting her with a smile that carries quiet contempt. This situation is already getting messy very fast. Later, Jeffrey asks if she knows Lord Kaiden, and although she expected the question, it still irritates her. She reminds Jeffrey again about keeping his distance. She explains she is here to find a husband, and no one will approach her properly if the commander of the Western Night Order is glaring at them. Kaiden calmly says he only came over because he was thirsty, though Isabella is clearly standing near the drink table. She dismisses him again and tells him to stop interfering in her matters, noting how temperamental he is. She walks away, and Jeffrey questions whether she truly intends to meet Kaiden despite the rumors surrounding him. She asks who he is referring to, and he explains that Kaiden Blake is rumored to have gone mad after absorbing monster energy and is said to be confined in the magic tower. Isabella replies that if he is here, then he must be better now. But Jeffrey disagrees, insisting it is even more suspicious for him to appear suddenly. He then shifts the conversation, mentioning how Marquess Richmond's son is rumored to be handsome, polite, and intelligent, wondering why that topic has surfaced now. Isabella calmly responds that rumors can be wrong. Jeffrey becomes frustrated and warns her to look closely at Kaiden's blood-red eyes, questioning how anyone could see sanity in them. She smiles and replies that this very trait makes him appealing to her. She seems more intrigued by him than concerned about the rumors. Jeffrey is immediately angered, insisting she cannot possibly like someone like Kaiden, especially with demon blood and madness rumors surrounding him. He declares that she should be with someone respectable instead. At that moment, Kaiden walks past and announces that the ceremony is about to begin. Jeffrey is instantly enraged, clears his throat and tries to introduce himself properly, but when he looks up, Kaiden and Isabella are already gone. On the other hand, Kaiden tells Isabella they have finally escaped Jeffrey and asks for a reward for rescuing her from him. She pauses before replying and tells him to let go of her hand first, warning that gossip will spread before she is officially introduced. He releases her, claiming he was only in a hurry. Even so, the closeness between them has already drawn attention and whispers from the crowd. Kaiden admits it is already too late to avoid rumors. He quietly observes her, unable to help himself, thinking she looks especially beautiful today. The thought of hiding her away so no one else can see her briefly crosses his mind. He gently touches her face and asks if this counts as cheating already. That sounds possessive. Just then, a guard announces the arrival of His Majesty. As the Emperor walks in, he asks if the child is truly present. The guard confirms her attendance at the entrance and also mentions that Count Collins accompanied her. The Emperor's thoughts darken as he recalls how Collins once impregnated his daughter to secure status, and he views his presence at the event as shameless. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The announcer then declares that all debuting young ladies and gentlemen must step forward with their guardians or chaperones. Isabella holds her father as they prepare. The announcer further explains that the Emperor himself is hosting the debut ceremony. Even though the Empress and Crown Prince are no longer present, Prince Aster remains, signaling the Emperor's recognition of him as successor. Count Collins quietly smiles, believing everything is going according to his plan. Then, Isabella is officially introduced as the daughter of Count Collins. She and her father step forward to greet His Majesty, who is visibly shocked upon seeing Isabella and the dress she is wearing. The Emperor immediately recognizes the dress Isabella is wearing. It is the same design he remembers from years ago. That day was the first New Year's celebration after the Empress was no longer with them. The memory pulls him back. Lily had been trying on dresses for the occasion, asking for his opinion. She had always come to him during his grieving period, quietly keeping him company when he was lost in sorrow. Even while both of them were mourning someone they loved, she still managed to ease his pain. On that day, he had chosen the very dress Isabella now wears, telling Lily it matched her mother's favorite color. So this dress carries way more history than it looks like. Isabella bows respectfully as she greets the Emperor. He gently places his hand on her head while she offers a formal blessing, praying for his reign to bring prosperity and glory to the Empire and addressing him as the great son of legend. As she speaks, he studies her closely, wondering why she chose that particular dress. A thought crosses his mind, whether she has inherited her father's boldness or even shamelessness. But at the same time, she reminds him too much of Lily. While he is lost in thought, Isabella introduces herself clearly as Isabella Leonard. That statement catches him completely off guard. It is not what he expected at all. Later, her father praises her and asks what she must have said to the Emperor, noticing how he had been visibly shaken. Isabella calmly replies that she only wished him good health. Her father assumes the Emperor must be pleased to see his beautiful granddaughter, but the Emperor's reaction is far more complex than that. He is stunned not by flattery but by her declaration of identity. He could have punished her for such a bold introduction, yet something about her presence makes him hold back. The way he looked at her makes that restraint obvious. Just then, Catherine calls out to Count Collins and asks Isabella how her meeting with His Majesty went. Isabella replies that it went well and casually asks if Jeffrey has arrived, since he insisted on accompanying her. Catherine smiles outwardly, but internally she views Isabella as nothing but a disruption. She then presents a list of potential candidates suitable for Isabella and asks if she would like to meet them. Sir Collins immediately steps in, explaining that Isabella prefers to choose for herself, while still thanking Catherine for her effort. Catherine visibly flinches and questions his response. After what happened with the Emperor, Count Collins finds himself politically isolated, and Catherine had been the one who helped him regain his position in high society. She now presses him, asking if he truly intends to exclude her from these matters. He tells her to postpone the discussion, since too many eyes are watching them at the moment. As he turns to leave, Catherine clenches her hand in frustration, feeling humiliated and powerless. Unable to do anything further, she eventually withdraws. Isabella quietly tells Catherine that she hopes she will stop interfering in her affairs, adding that it should not be strange for someone to attend a social gathering in search of a potential partner. She then moves toward Kaiden and notices him speaking with several ladies. Calling out to him, she approaches just as he explains that the women had been talking about her. They mention that Isabella resembles the former crown princess and assume she is here to find a suitable match. Kaiden adds that this timing is perfect since he came for the same purpose, treating it like a coincidence, though the ladies have already left. Kaiden really said coincidence like this is a normal, casual meetup. Isabella informs him that the women are no longer there. Kaiden immediately calls them rude and petty, to which she calmly replies that she could say the same about him. She then tells him to go around spreading rumors if he likes. Kaiden leans slightly closer, clearly entertained. He asks if she will dance with him once the ball begins. Isabella replies that she has already told Count Collins she will consider several candidates. Kaiden remarks that she no longer even refers to him as her father, then teasingly suggests he simply confess that he fell for her at first sight. Isabella refuses, explaining that rushing things could lead to being forced into an arranged marriage, so he will have to wait. Kaiden agrees. As they walk past Jeffrey, he immediately questions whether they are sharing secrets. Tension rises again as he greets Kaiden and introduces himself once more, insisting he has business to discuss with Isabella and tries to take her away. Kaiden stops him, saying they are in the middle of a conversation and calling his interference rude. Jeffrey insists the matter is important. He then claims that the Countess specifically instructed him to keep suspicious men like Kaiden away from Isabella. Kaiden finally turns to look at him directly. Jeffrey continues speaking, telling Isabella that her first dance should be with him so he can prevent unsuitable men from approaching her. Kaiden smiles and tells Isabella she can guess what would happen if she agrees. Both men simultaneously demand her answer. Isabella calmly responds that she will dance with neither of them, and they should both wake up from their delusions. She then walks away, leaving them stunned. The Empire's most promising bachelor and the Duke's heir are both left speechless, their behavior drawing more attention than hers. She really left both of them standing there like background characters. In noble society, a debutante is only allowed to dance after being invited by a man, making it the perfect environment for comparison among suitors. Isabella does not have anyone in mind and simply waits, but even after 5 songs, no one approaches her. The situation feels unnatural, or perhaps it is not random at all. Catherine appears once more, reminding Isabella that she had warned her earlier. She states that although Isabella may be the Emperor's precious connection, the imperial family has long cut ties with them. Unless someone intends to defy the Emperor himself, no one would dare invite Isabella to dance for her first time. Catherine smiles widely as she watches Isabella standing alone. Very well. It seems plans are about to change. Earlier, Catherine had already issued a strict warning to everyone in high society, instructing them not to ask for Lady Isabella's first dance. As a woman who holds strong influence and dominance among the nobles, no one dares to disobey her orders. Isabella recalls a moment earlier when she had asked her father if he intended to completely exclude her from this matter. That thought must have struck Catherine's pride deeply, because she clearly took it as an insult and acted accordingly. Jeffrey calls out to her from behind, but his mother immediately stops him. She reminds him that he is the heir of House Richmond and the commander of the Knights, emphasizing that he has too much to lose to act recklessly. Jeffrey asks what she means, and she questions whether he is willing to risk the Emperor's displeasure over what she calls pointless sympathy or emotional attachment. He responds that he has never cared for any of those expectations she places on him. She tries to stop him again, but he ignores her and walks away anyway. The music shifts, and Isabella is already seen dancing with someone. Kaiden steps in, casually saying he used a bribe because he liked the music, though he adds that this particular piece is quite pleasant. He gently kisses her hand and requests a dance, and she accepts. Together, they dance gracefully, moving in perfect rhythm. Oh, so he really just walked in and claimed that moment like it was meant for him. During the dance, Kaiden asks what she would have done if not for the contract between them. Isabella quietly wonders why he is behaving this way, questioning whether he is simply fulfilling obligations tied to the contract, or if his demon instincts are influencing him to draw closer to her. Even though she understands the risks involved, she cannot help but feel herself being drawn toward him, like approaching something she knows is dangerous but cannot resist. If this continues, she fears she may forget her goal of revenge and become too emotionally entangled with him. After the dance ends, Kaiden asks if she would like to dance again. She reminds him that custom does not allow the same person to be danced with consecutively. He immediately insists that they should break that rule right now. At that moment, she recalls Lulu, who often clings to her in a similar manner. She gently tells him to be patient and that she will return shortly. Kaiden watches her and thinks she sounds like she is speaking to a pet, though he also realizes he is no different, given his obsession with the contract. He is acting bold in public, but emotionally he is already too attached. Isabella walks toward Jeffrey, who immediately asks her for a dance. However, the familiarity built over years between them, even the small warmth in their interaction, now feels unpleasant and suffocating to her. Surprisingly, she does not feel pleased by it at all. Kaiden watches from a distance, thinking to himself that he does not wish to destroy or torment her. Instead, what he feels is a strong desire to monopolize her attention entirely. He wonders if this began after he gave her the demon heart, wishing he had never connected their lives through mana. Jeffrey apologizes to Isabella, admitting that he is aware of his mother's interference. She responds that she already knows, which is why she came to him for the dance. Meanwhile, Catherine watches their interaction in anger. Her expression darkening, Jeffrey suddenly laughs, while Isabella calmly states that perhaps the best way to rebel against Catherine is through him. He then asks her what she thinks about revenge. She questions if he is certain, since the person involved is his own mother. She makes it clear that if he expects a reward for his sympathy or involvement, he should not even imagine it. She intends to take revenge, and if he chooses to rebel, then they can simply use each other for their own purposes. Jeffrey agrees without hesitation, stating that this is exactly why he followed her in the first place. Kaiden observes them from a distance, silently watching the exchange. Around them, nobles begin to whisper in confusion, noticing Catherine's son dancing with Isabella. Catherine internally fumes, wishing she could handle Jeffrey for defying her, but she forces herself to maintain composure in front of the crowd. She quickly tries to explain to the guests that Jeffrey only acted out of childhood familiarity and sympathy, insisting that he is not the first to dance with Isabella. She attempts to calm the situation, though her words only add more tension. She's smiling, but everything is clearly slipping out of her control. While still managing the crowd, Jeffrey and Isabella approach her. Isabella politely greets her, and Catherine forces a smile while internally questioning what Isabella is planning now. Isabella then declares that she thanks everyone for their consideration, but has now decided she will choose her own husband. Catherine immediately panics. Isabella continues, questioning how she could possibly marry someone who feels like a brother to her. She lets out a soft chuckle as the whispers in the crowd grow louder. She then mentions the Marchionesses' earlier remark about nothing good coming from associating with the daughter of the dethroned princess, causing further outrage among the nobles. The crowd begins to question Catherine directly, demanding clarity. The situation spirals as Isabella's words make it seem like Catherine deliberately blocked other nobles in order to push Jeffrey toward her. Overwhelmed, Catherine hurriedly explains that she only intended for Jeffrey to dance with her and did not mean any harm. She pleads for understanding and asks that they not misunderstand her intentions, insisting she only wanted to properly introduce Isabella later. She then tries to end the matter quickly, calling for Jeffrey while attempting to regain control of the situation. Kaiden suddenly intervenes, stating that he had been troubled because it appeared that members of Catherine's house were trying to keep Lady Isabella to themselves. Catherine stiffens, wondering who dares interrupt her, only to realize it is Kaiden. He calmly adds that he also finds Lady Isabella quite charming. He steps closer, leans in slightly, and whispers something to her before turning back to Catherine. He warns that he hopes such misunderstandings will not occur again in the future and asks whether she clearly understands what he is implying. People murmur among themselves, speculating about how the Marchioness appears unusually frustrated. They quietly conclude that she must have been secretly watching over her son while pretending not to care. The attention quickly shifts as they notice that House Blake is also showing interest in Isabella, which immediately raises suspicion among the nobles. Some begin to wonder if there is something more significant about Isabella than they first assumed, while others even speculate whether the Emperor might have some hidden intention involving the dethroned princess. Kaiden calmly listens to their thoughts and grins in quiet satisfaction. He's just standing there enjoying all the confusion he stirred up. He then states that Lady Isabella is yet to give him an official answer and politely requests that Catherine excuse them for now. The surrounding nobles also begin to disperse, claiming they have other matters to attend to and suggesting that the discussion continue another time. With Catherine's current standing already weakened, this public disturbance is enough to create doubt among the nobles, even if it does not completely destroy her influence. Isabella then promises to repay Kaiden for what he did earlier, but Kaiden lightly asks if she truly believes she can handle whatever he might request from her. She cautiously questions whether he intends to ask for something strange. He only laughs softly without giving a direct answer. There is a strange tension in the air as he continues to enjoy teasing her, almost as if he cannot help himself. He briefly wonders whether this urge is simply his demon nature acting up, or something else entirely. There is a saying that humans who become attached to demons eventually lose their sense of reason. Yet in his case, it feels like the opposite is happening. At this point, it becomes increasingly clear that his attention is fixed on her far more than he admits. A guard approaches the Emperor and informs him that he should return to his chambers due to illness. However, the Emperor instead turns and asks whether the guard saw his granddaughter at the ball. He recalls how she stood alone at the beginning of the event because no one would dance with her. Normally, the Marchioness would have introduced her to suitable suitors, but that did not happen. The memory pulls him deeper into the past. It has been over 20 years since he revoked Lily's position as princess. Even so, he has never stopped watching over her from a distance. At the time, he believed that if he took everything away from her, she would eventually return, especially after realizing her husband only approached her for power. But that expectation was wrong. Lily was left with nothing, yet she still never came back, not even when she was forced to leave with Collins while pregnant. Now, the thought of her returning feels like something long out of reach. Tears form in his eyes as he reflects on everything. He later had to witness Felix, the crown prince, fall, which made reaching out to Lily even more difficult. With no successor officially announced and Aster's intentions becoming more concerning, he realizes the situation is unstable. He then instructs the guard to summon Isabella discreetly, confirming it as an imperial order. Back at home, Lily asks Isabella how the ball went. She wonders why her mother is still awake, and Lily explains that she could not sleep. Isabella invites her to her room, and Lily joins her on the bed. Isabella playfully clings to her like a child, making Lily tease her about acting childish. She jokes that when Isabella gets married, she will not be able to behave like this anymore. Isabella casually replies that she would simply leave her husband to sleep alone, which immediately makes Lily disapprove. Lily then asks if she met the man she fell in love with at first sight. Isabella replies that they exchanged greetings and even danced together. Lily smiles and says it is time to reveal who the gentleman is. Isabella calmly responds that she has already met him. Lily pauses, trying to recall, briefly thinking it might be Jeffrey, but before she can finish, Isabella reveals that it is Lord Kaiden Blake. Lily immediately glares at her while Isabella laughs and apologizes, admitting she only wanted to tease her. She then casually asks if she should persuade her father to send an engagement proposal to House Blake, but Lily quickly tells her not yet and that she prefers to keep things secret for now. Meanwhile, Muser observes everything quietly from a distance. Lily then reminds Isabella that she told her father she would consider several houses in exchange for avoiding an arranged marriage. Lily sits up in surprise and asks if Isabella thought of all this herself. Isabella confidently replies that she is already grown up. She adds that she will continue pretending to listen to her father for now until the right moment comes, after which she will decide everything herself. Lily praises her intelligence, but then asks about His Majesty's condition. Isabella replies that he appeared healthy, though that was not entirely true. She deliberately avoids telling her mother that the Emperor looked unwell, knowing it would deeply affect her. According to what is known from the tragic princess's past, the Emperor should have been poisoned, so his condition is not surprising. If only she had another chance to see him. Meanwhile, Kaiden listens to their conversation through Muser without being seen. Isabella then asks Lily if she ever resented His Majesty. Lily admits that she did at first, feeling betrayed and hurt that he did not trust her. However, after becoming a parent, she now understands his actions a little more. She tells Isabella that she would do anything for her daughter. Even though she suffered deeply in the past, she does not regret it, because it led to Isabella, who is more precious than anything else. A few days later, Isabella's maids bring in various gifts and items sent by different nobles. She has never received so many bouquets in her life before. The maid praises her, saying she must have been the most admired lady at the ball. It becomes clear that Catherine likely tried to repair her reputation afterward, convincing her followers that she meant no harm. Most of the gifts come from nobles showing interest, while others are small gestures of admiration. However, none of them include formal marriage proposals. Then, Isabella notices a bouquet of black roses accompanied by a letter. She finds it unusual, since black roses are rarely used to express romantic interest. The letter reads, "With this homage to eternal beauty, I would like to invite you to a luncheon." The invitation is addressed to Isabella Leonard, which surprises her because she has only revealed that surname to two people, Kaiden and the Emperor. Alice calls from behind and Isabella quietly smiles, already certain this invitation is not ordinary. It is definitely not a normal, noble invitation. Days later, Isabella arrives at the arranged destination. A man comes forward to welcome her warmly, and she politely thanks him for the reception. Officially, the invitation letter was sent by the second son of House Jenkins. He mentions that dinner tonight will likely be served with wine, and casually asks if she would like to view the different varieties available. Isabella agrees and follows his guidance. Sir Jenkins, the head of the family, is not of particularly high status, but as a member of the Imperial Knights, he is still regarded as a loyal subject of the Emperor. He leads her toward a private room where rare wines are stored. In truth, this arrangement is carefully designed as a discreet way to arrange a private meeting with her. This whole wine tour is just a cover for something way bigger. When Isabella opens the door, she finds His Majesty sitting calmly inside. She immediately bows and greets him respectfully, addressing him as the Master of Legend. He responds that they do not have much time and moves straight to the point. He questions her intentions behind introducing herself as Isabella Leonard, warning that depending on her answer, she could be charged with insulting the imperial family. He reflects internally that she has boldly evoked memories of his dethroned daughter and also used the imperial surname without permission. Such behavior is not expected from a young lady who has just debuted in society. He questions whether her father instructed her to do so. Isabella calmly smiles and replies that her father wishes to reconcile with him, and she can sense that intention clearly. The Emperor then asks if she debuted simply to act as her father's puppet. She firmly denies this, stating that she is not aligned with her father and that he is irrelevant to this matter of reconciliation. He presses further, demanding a credible reason he can trust. Isabella then explains that she has only one purpose for risking her life to come to this meeting. She reveals that Count Collins took his daughter and severed the bond between parent and child, and later shamelessly cheated on his wife with her friend. Because of this, she wants revenge against him. The Emperor is taken aback, wondering how she already knows about her father's unfaithfulness. He asks if her mother is aware of it. Isabella grips her dress slightly and replies that she is not sure yet. The Emperor inwardly thinks that even his daughter has uncovered such disgraceful matters. If he could, he would personally deal with Count Collins himself. He then asks if all she wants is his cooperation in her revenge. Isabella quickly corrects him, saying she would never dare make such a disrespectful request to the son of the nation. However, she suggests that while pursuing her revenge, she may also remove one of the thorns on his side. She reminds him that he urgently needs a successor, and if he continues to delay, Prince Aster may eventually target her mother. The Emperor looks at her in shock, realizing she is speaking about extremely dangerous matters. Isabella calmly states that she understands how much he values his only daughter, who is her mother, but she also knows he cannot act rashly without putting her in danger. That is why she proposes a deal. Her condition is simple: reinstate Lily as princess. He tells her it is not that simple. Isabella agrees, acknowledging there will be many obstacles, including House Collins and lack of political support. Because of that, she presents a combined planned marriage alliance with House Blake and divorce from Count Collins. The Emperor becomes thoughtful, realizing the implications. Isabella adds that she already danced with the Duke's heir at the ball, and if she marries into House Blake, it could strengthen Northern military influence. She also notes that the North would not support Prince Aster, who belongs to the anti-demon faction. This girl is not just planning revenge, she is literally reshaping the political board. The Emperor then questions whether Count Collins would agree to a divorce so easily. Isabella explains that there are legal grounds within the temple system that can force divorce, such as failure to produce an heir, inability to maintain noble status due to financial collapse, or mental instability affecting normal duties. She states that she is prepared to ensure the conditions are met by any means necessary, as long as he looks the other way. The Emperor watches her carefully, aware that this is an extremely difficult task for someone her age. However, the benefits of her proposal are too significant to ignore, especially since he also wishes to protect Lily. After a moment of consideration, he agrees to reinstate Lily once both conditions are fulfilled. Isabella thanks him sincerely. As he prepares to leave, she calls out and requests a handshake to seal their agreement. He is slightly surprised by her boldness, but finds her behavior almost childlike in that moment. Still, he agrees and shakes her hand before departing. Meanwhile, Kaiden is training with a knight named Liam. After defeating him, he helps him up. Kaiden comments that the knight seems slightly out of shape and asks for his opinion. Liam replies that Kaiden still has the habit of venting frustration on the knights whenever something displeases him. Kaiden dismisses it, claiming it is not true. However, in reality, he is irritated because Isabella has not contacted him for an entire week since the ball, despite him continuously sending what could only be described as a mountain of bouquets. Liam tells him that no knight there can defeat him, and advises him to show mercy. Kaiden responds that instead, they should try harder to reach his level. Suddenly, a voice speaks from behind, saying it will do exactly that. It is Duke Ethan Blake, Kaiden's father. Without hesitation, Kaiden draws his sword and charges. Father and son clash in a fierce exchange, but the Duke easily overpowers him and knocks the weapon from his hand. He calls Kaiden pathetic, stating that power should not be wasted on emotional outbursts. Kaiden turns away, but his father coldly reminds him that the knights serve House Blake, and if Kaiden wants something to play with, he should look elsewhere. Kaiden realizes something important in that moment. He cannot read his father's thoughts at all. It is the same strange silence he experiences with his contract partner. Back at the estate, Isabella visits the medical officer and finds his workplace still disorganized as usual. He comments that he heard she is getting married and asks what brings her there. He is Baron Philip, the Imperial Medical Officer. He questions why a count's daughter would refer to him as her master. Isabella calmly replies that it is not strange for a pupil to visit her mentor. He insists he is not worthy of such respect and asks again why she is there. Isabella's expression turns serious, as she states that it is urgent and concerns the Emperor's health. The doctor expresses visible surprise, though he quickly pretends he did not hear what Isabella just said. She calls out to him again, and he finally responds by reminding her that he is the Imperial Doctor and cannot casually discuss His Majesty's health with an outsider. Isabella calmly asks him to examine something first before making any conclusions. She then shows him a strange mushroom and questions whether he recognizes it. The doctor studies it carefully before admitting that it is indeed a mushroom, though he has never seen that particular kind before. Isabella explains that most people would not recognize it because it has not yet been properly researched within academic circles. She reveals that it is called the IMP's mushroom and is mainly known among knights who hunt monsters. Curious, the doctor immediately asks if it is poisonous. Rather than simply explaining, Isabella decides to demonstrate it herself and suddenly eats one. The doctor panics in disbelief, loudly protesting that she cannot consume something suspicious without certainty. Isabella winces at the terrible taste but casually remarks that one mushroom alone is not dangerous. She explains that showing him directly would be faster than describing it with words. Soon after, she notes that the symptoms are appearing quickly and asks him to examine her hand. When he looks closely, he notices a crescent moon-like pattern forming around her fingernails, along with unusual heat radiating from her fingertips. Isabella confirms that this is exactly what she noticed on His Majesty's hands. The doctor is immediately alarmed and questions whether she is implying that the Emperor has been consuming those mushrooms. Isabella calmly confirms it and further explains that she believes His Majesty has likely been taking them for quite a long time already. Our girl isn't here to play. She continues explaining that the mushroom functions like a stimulant. In small amounts, it can temporarily help people stay awake and energized, which is why knights sometimes consume it during overnight monster hunts. However, prolonged use causes severe side effects. The doctor asks what kind of side effects she means, and Isabella begins listing them one by one. Dry mouth, worsening indigestion, dizziness, and eventually falling into a coma if it continues long enough. She then asks whether those symptoms remind him of anyone. The doctor quietly realizes that His Majesty has indeed complained about many of those exact symptoms before. However, he had previously dismissed them as normal issues related to age, especially since no major health crisis had occurred yet. He also recalls that the Emperor undergoes examinations every morning and afternoon, and during today's checkup, he did not notice the marks Isabella currently has on her fingertips. Because of this, he cautiously states that it is still too early to conclude the mushrooms are responsible. Isabella immediately suggests another possibility, that His Majesty may only consume them after his examinations are completed. She then asks what the Emperor usually does after the afternoon checkup. The doctor replies that His Majesty normally drinks tea while reading documents afterward. Isabella immediately concludes that this must be when it happens. She advises him to secretly inspect the tea or, if possible, stop the Emperor from drinking it for several days and observe whether his condition changes. After hearing her reasoning, the doctor finally agrees. A few days later, the masquerade hosted by Viscount Grissom arrives. Since the Viscount is one of Prince Astor's loyal followers, Isabella quickly realizes that this gathering is essentially a ball arranged for the prince himself. Because of that, she concludes it would be unsafe or unpleasant for her mother to attend. However, attending alone with her father is hardly comforting either. Not long afterward, her father asks whether there has been any news from the Duke's heir. Isabella immediately realizes he means Kaiden. When she casually refers to him by name, her father reacts with surprise and asks whether they already address each other informally. Isabella calmly explains that Kaiden said he was not accustomed to being called Lord. Her father secretly grows hopeful at hearing this. In his mind, the fact that they have already dropped formal titles suggests their relationship is progressing well. He remembers how openly Kaiden expressed interest in Isabella during the previous ball. Even though the Duke's heir has not sent banquet invitations or obvious gestures afterward, Colin still believes there has been meaningful progress between them. At the same time, he worries that Prince Astor likely heard about Catherine's humiliation during the previous gathering. For his own protection, he now feels more determined than ever to ensure Isabella marries Kaiden. If that alliance succeeds, House Collins would gain access to northern military power and even the support connected to the demon world. As Isabella enters the grand hall beside her father, she quietly thinks that Prince Astor must have been deeply offended about not being invited to the debutante party earlier. Although tonight's event is merely hosted by a viscount, it appears far more extravagant than the imperial ball itself. Nobles wearing masks fill the hall, and because most attendees are unmarried, the atmosphere feels particularly intense and competitive. Soon, Isabella notices Catherine standing at one side of the room. Before she can focus further, a man approaches and greets her father warmly. Collins immediately bows respectfully in response. Isabella's eyes then drift toward the name tag attached to the man's clothing, and her expression stiffens the moment she recognizes the name, Astor Leonard. The very man she remembers as someone who took advantage of her mother's love and ultimately caused her unbearable suffering before her tragic end. Astor calmly asks whether the young lady beside Collins is his niece. Her father quickly introduces Isabella and tells her to greet her uncle properly. Though rage burns inside her, Isabella forces herself to remain composed and politely introduces herself. Deep inside, however, she swears that she will make him suffer even more than she and her mother ever did. One day, she intends to personally drag him into ruin, so until then, she silently wishes him continued health. Soon afterward, someone quietly approaches her and asks whether she came alone. Isabella immediately remarks that lowering his voice so dramatically only makes him sound suspicious. The man sounds surprised that she recognized him despite the altered voice. She casually states that anyone could tell it is Jeffrey Richmond and asks whether he came merely to guard her again. Jeffrey replies that he only came to make sure she does not get hurt, then begins carefully pointing out the men around the ballroom, one after another. Starting with the black mask at the 11 o'clock direction, he explains that the man is the eldest son of Count Auterre and is known for chasing after women recklessly. He warns her to avoid him. He then points out another man wearing a green horned mask, explaining that he is the second son of Viscount Brown. Although he appears normal, Jeffrey bluntly describes him as unbelievably foolish. As Jeffrey continues naming noblemen, Isabella quietly realizes that Catherine only prepared bombs that would explode the moment she got close to them. She begins wondering whether Catherine deliberately arranged these unsuitable men in order to stop any possible alliance with House Blake. Part of her even considers pretending to innocently fall for the trap, just to observe the reactions afterward. Meanwhile, Jeffrey remarks, honestly, that the only person he does not mind her being around is the last man he is about to mention. Isabella asks who that last person is. Jeffrey slowly points toward a man wearing a demon mask. It is Kaiden Blake, so the dangerous one is actually the safest. He walks up to them and immediately notices Jeffrey sticking close to Isabella again. He then comments aloud that the pink mop is once again attached to her side. He then wonders out loud whether the so-called hero will truly be able to save the princess. Jeffrey questions what he is talking about, and Kaiden continues. remarking that it is unfortunate the princess already seems to have been seduced. He further questions why Jeffrey does not take his clumsy sense of righteousness elsewhere, suggesting that perhaps there are other feelings involved concerning his childhood friend. Jeffrey sharply responds that Kaiden should not group him with people like himself, insisting that Kaiden is the one with indecent thoughts. Kaiden calmly agrees, even adding that he indeed plans to act on such indecent intentions going forward, which leaves Jeffrey visibly surprised. Isabella then thanks Jeffrey for the information and requests a private moment so she can speak with Kaiden. Jeffrey asks if she truly understood everything he told her. She confirms that she did and says she will speak with him later. He agrees and reminds her to be careful. She turns to Kaiden and asks if he is satisfied now. Kaiden replies that he wore the obvious demon mask so she could easily find him, yet she was still engaging with another man. He calls her darling, but she immediately warns him to be mindful of his words since everyone is watching. Shortly after, Kaiden asks for her hand and confirms whether her first dance will be with him. She agrees. He remarks that she accepted more easily this time, and she responds that in return, he must understand what she will be doing afterward. When he asks what she means, she explains that many people have been trying to keep him in check since the debutante ball, and the men Catherine planted at the event will also approach her later. Kaiden questions whether she is warning him in advance that she plans to flirt with other men. She explains that Prince Aster is likely watching her, and staying only with Kaiden would be the same as provoking him. She tells Kaiden not to get jealous again like before. Kaiden pauses and says he already has a lot to do anyway. When she becomes curious, he assures her it has nothing to do with following her around. In his thoughts, Kaiden reveals that he intends to personally deal with those who have been sending letters to his wife. He then asks if she likes the demon heart she is wearing. She explains that he gave it to her for self-defense, while he internally notes that she is standing in the middle of a battlefield filled with enemies. He tells her not to be anxious, but she insists she is fine and even asks if he read her mind. He silently admits that he is becoming dangerously fixated on knowing her thoughts and expressions. Isabella then admits she is slightly worried but reassures herself that Kaiden is with her, adding that hardly anything is stronger than a demon. Meanwhile, Isabella's father notices Catherine and confronts her, questioning whether she intends to disrupt his daughter again as she did during the debut. Catherine dismisses the accusation and internally reflects that the man who once bowed to her now acts differently because House Blake has taken interest in Isabella. She then informs him that Prince Aster wishes to see him privately, instructing him to follow her. He complies and is led to Prince Aster, who asks him to sit. The man internally reflects that being seated beside the prince, who once ignored him, suggests Aster may now be concerned about losing influence. Elsewhere in the hall, Isabella accepts a drink while someone offers to escort her if she becomes intoxicated. She agrees but notes that the crowd is overwhelming and she is not used to such an atmosphere. The guy suggests a quieter place, and she agrees to follow. As they leave, she discreetly swaps her glass. Outside, the guy notices the drink is already empty and asks how she feels. She replies that she is slightly dizzy, then requests that he remove his mask so she can see his face, adding that he must be handsome. He immediately removes it. After seeing his face, Isabella confirms her suspicion and slaps him, stating she cannot believe people like him are still using such a dangerous drug, and questions whether he truly thinks he will get away with it. This doesn't look like it will end well for him. He questions what drug she is referring to. Then he identifies himself as Bellic Oter and insists that although he made mistakes in the past that ruined his family's standing, he is not involved in anything illegal now. Isabella responds that she has heard about his father's involvement in the black market and suggests that he must be very busy if he is even supplying drugs for his son. He immediately denies it, claiming she is falsely accusing an innocent man and demands proof of her claims. Isabella calmly tells him to drink the champagne in front of her if he is truly innocent. He pushes the glass away, causing it to shatter on the floor. That reaction said everything louder than any confession could. He quickly claims it was an accident and insists he does not understand what she is talking about. He tries to maintain his innocence, saying his hand simply slipped, and questioning why anyone would even mix drugs into a drink. Internally, he realizes the evidence is gone and wonders what she can do without proof. He continues pretending to be offended, saying he was only expressing admiration for her and acting hurt by her reaction. Isabella then reveals that the glass he broke was not the one he gave her, as she had already switched it at the drink table and left his original drink untouched. Since he insists on innocence, she suggests she will personally examine the drink she left behind, mentioning her medical training before entering high society. He panics and stops her immediately. She coldly remarks that his reputation as the foolish eldest son who ruined his family is well-deserved. He pleads with her to listen, clearly panicking. Isabella observes that he is not used to being exposed like this, as he usually deceives women without consequences. She considers reporting him to the Imperial Guards, but suspects Catherine may have pushed him into this situation. Instead, she decides to use him. She tells him she will overlook the matter under one condition. He must go to Marchioness Richmond and declare that he is completely infatuated with her, claiming Isabella is the only one he can think about. She explains internally that this will make Catherine believe her plan worked and stop interfering. She then adds that after that, he must formally propose to her. He questions why he must do all that, but she tells him he is free to refuse. When he hesitates, she calmly reaches for the glass, prompting him to quickly agree. She instructs him to make the proposal formal and luxurious, then leaves him behind, warning that he understands the consequences if others hear about this. Later, Bellick convinces himself he only agreed because he was caught off guard and intends to deal with her later, instead of following through. Shortly after, Isabella notes that the situation went better than expected. Kaiden and Jeffrey have kept their distance, and she has successfully dealt with Catherine's men one by one. Her next target is Prince Aster. Aster approaches her and requests a dance. She accepts, knowing she cannot refuse him publicly. What a carefully disguised threat in front of everyone! During the dance, Aster comments that she is the highlight of the ball and mentions she resembles his late sister, the former flower of Legent. He casually asks if she has chosen a future husband yet. Isabella replies that she has not, and he states he will ensure she is matched properly, referring to her as the precious daughter of his beloved sister and wishing his sister continued health. Isabella is visibly shaken by the implication, realizing his words are a threat rather than kindness. She maintains her composure but internally understands he will not hesitate if she defies him. After the dance, she struggles with fear she did not expect to feel. Just then, Kaiden appears behind her and holds her, asking if she is all right. She wonders how he found her, and he casually replies that he thought he saw her walking in this direction. She does not even realize when she started crying, but she quickly tells him to wait for a moment as she wipes her tears away. He gently places his coat over her shoulders and remarks that she must be drunk, suggesting that they should go somewhere to eat something sweet to clear her head. As they walk, she asks where exactly they are going, and he responds vaguely without fully explaining. She insists again that she is not drunk and tells him they should return, but he simply replies that he is the one who is drunk, so she should just come along and eat with him anyway. Soon she slows down, saying she cannot walk any further because her feet hurt. He looks at her and decides this should be far enough, then tells her not to worry because they will not need to walk anymore from here. She asks if they are going back, but instead of answering, he lifts her up. It is not her first time being carried like this, but she still cannot get used to it no matter how many times it happens. She questions what he thinks he is doing, and he calmly replies that he is practicing his Demon King act, asking if it is not normal for the Demon King to abduct the princess. She silently thinks it is completely nonsense and refuses to even argue with it properly. Soon he tells her to look ahead. She does and immediately notices a cool wind wrapping around her body, soothing her thoughts and calming her mind. The refreshing air makes her feel more aware, and she can clearly sense Kaiden's presence beside her, his hand holding her, his warmth, and even his breath so close to her. Almost instantly, she realizes her heartbeat has become loud and unstable, and she desperately hopes he does not notice. Shortly after, they arrive. She looks around and realizes they are at the magic tower where she first met Kaiden. She wonders how she is supposed to get back home since they have come this far, but he simply reminds her that this was meant to be an abduction from the start. She quickly asks if he intends to imprison her there, and he replies in a teasing tone that she has a lot of questions before casually heading off to change his clothes. He even adds, half-jokingly, that she is welcome to watch him undress if she wants. She immediately refuses, and he replies that it is nothing new anyway since she has already seen his body on their first meeting and even undressed him herself back then. She quickly states that she will wait outside, and he finally promises not to tease her anymore. Before leaving, he tells her to stay inside and sit down because it is cold outside. As he leaves, he notices she seems slightly more relaxed than before and remembers seeing her crying alone in the hallway earlier. That moment made his mind go completely blank. The same woman who never flinches even when a blade is at her throat, the same woman who is always confident and bold, had looked vulnerable, and he did not want to see her like that again. After changing, he returns and notices his ears are slightly red. She questions it, and also realizes how close he is, hearing his breathing clearly, which makes her even more aware of the situation. He asks if she also wants to change because her dress looks uncomfortable, but she insists she is fine, though internally she feels the opposition that everything about this moment is far more uncomfortable than the dress itself. He reassures her to relax, saying he is not going to gobble her up, and then steps outside so she can change in peace. He also remarks that she probably cannot even breathe properly in that outfit. Watching him leave, she thinks to herself that she had always assumed he simply did whatever he wanted, but he is actually being considerate in his own strange way. She then calls out to him and admits she cannot remove the dress properly on her own, asking for his help. He's not as reckless as he pretends to be. He pauses for a while and then asks if she really wants him to strip her. She immediately pleads that he should not say it in such a vulgar way and simply undo the knot at the back of the dress. He stares at her for a moment, then asks what exactly he is supposed to do. She explains again, and he remarks that he is surprised she has been wearing something like this the entire time, noting that it explains why she could not breathe properly. She tells him to leave once he unties it so she can handle the rest herself. He struggles because he has never done it before, and soon she lets out a sharp scream, saying he has only made it tighter. He asks again how to do it properly, but she admits she does not know either since she did not tie it herself. He tries once more and eventually manages to loosen it. She exhales in relief, saying it feels much better now, while he leans slightly closer. She quickly suggests that he should leave so she can change properly. He agrees and steps out. A few minutes later, she wonders why he has not returned yet, realizing it has been longer than expected since she finished changing. She notices the oversized shirt he gave her, how it falls close to her knees, and how the sleeves extend far past her hands even after she folded them twice. Standing before the mirror, she studies herself and briefly wonders what Kaiden must think when he looks at himself in the mirror, and what he feels as he slowly turns into a demon over time. A knock sounds at the door, and Kaiden enters carrying food. He says he assumed she had not eaten yet. She takes the food and asks if he prepared it himself, and he explains that living alone in the tower made cooking necessary for survival. He then casually asks if that makes him qualified to be her husband. She looks at him and finds him oddly like a puppy waiting for approval, though she only responds that it is not bad and thanks him for the meal, adding that it tastes good. He brings out more food, chocolate sweetened with honey and warm wine, and reminds her that they were supposed to eat something sweet. He places some chocolate near her mouth and she remarks that it is too sweet. He then offers her the wine and she finds that the combination works surprisingly well, admitting she did not know chocolate and wine could pair so nicely. He agrees and explains that he used to eat it often when he could not sleep because of pain, and that it helped. She asks if it hurt a lot before he became a demon. He replies that he does not remember clearly, as he was not sane at the time. He adds that back then, he needed someone to hate, and that person was himself. He reflects on how he stayed alone in the tower, unable to understand what he was, neither fully human nor fully demon. She softly calls his name and tells him he is simply Kaiden. He repeats it, saying that when she says his name like that, it feels like he can finally breathe again. Not as a cursed half-blood or Duke Blake's heir, but simply as Kaiden. He admits that he once thought about disappearing, but now realizes he actually wants to live. He decides he will try not to hate himself anymore. She also quietly admits that she wants to live too. They hold hands and she eventually falls asleep. He watches her and thinks she looks beautiful even while sleeping. The next morning, she wakes up surprised to see a maid in the room and realizes she is back in her own place, wondering how she got there. Someone clearly made sure she got back safely without a scene. A few minutes later, she is speaking with her father. He questions if she left early the previous day, and she admits that she did, explaining that she was feeling a bit tired. Her father notes that he searched for her all night and warns that she should inform him before leaving next time. She agrees and apologizes. She notices his reaction is milder than expected and becomes suspicious, especially since she is certain some people must have seen her leaving with Kaiden. She wonders if that is why Aster went as far as to threaten her. There is no way he simply let that situation pass without action. She is also sure the prince's warning was far more severe than it appeared. Still, she is grateful for it, thinking it likely pushed the Count to act carefully as well, especially since he seems more focused on securing her marriage into House Blake than scolding her for staying out overnight. Her mind lingers on one question: how exactly did she return home the previous night? Shortly after, she meets Lord Muser. He questions her judgment, asking if she is in her right mind for staying out overnight as an unmarried lady and with a notorious greater demon, no less. He adds that she is the most careless noblewoman he has ever seen. She apologizes and immediately asks how she got back home. He asks if she expects that information for free, so she gives him food in exchange. She then asks again, and he tells her that Kaiden flew through the window while carrying her in his arms. Of course, he would choose the most dramatic possible entrance. There is no subtlety in this man at all. She is stunned, and he continues that Kaiden had been asking about the situation at the manor beforehand. After patrolling the area, Muser informed him that everyone had gone to sleep. She feels relieved that no one saw them, but Muser adds that it is strange how no one noticed she had not returned at all. Her family likely assumed she had already been written off for the night. She asks about the timing, and he replies that she returned before sunrise, likely before 5 a.m. She then asks the most important question, her dress. When she woke up, she was wearing Kaiden's shirt, and if the maids had noticed her missing dress, the entire manor would have been thrown into chaos. However, Muser explains that Kaiden brought her dress separately and placed it neatly in her wardrobe before leaving. She wonders why he even bothered, and he asks why she took it off in the first place. She quickly says it was due to a situation, but insists nothing strange happened, and he accepts that answer without further argument. He also tells her that Kaiden left a message. She does not need to worry because nothing happened. She pauses, realizing he must have anticipated her concerns. She finds him surprisingly considerate and meticulous for someone with his reputation. Muser, however, cannot believe how careless both of them were, though she thanks him for his help, admitting she would have been in serious trouble otherwise. He remarks that she has been avoiding him lately due to her frequent outings. She reassures him that it is not intentional. A knock comes at the door. It is Alice. She enters and tells Isabella to hurry to the drawing room, as several gentlemen who intend to propose are waiting. Alice adds that she is jealous, since all of them are high-ranking young nobles. She lists them: the eldest son of Count Rodriguez, the second son of Marcus Knox, the eldest son of Margrave Osborne, and the second son of Viscount Brown. Isabella immediately realizes this is the same list Jeffrey mentioned at the masquerade. They are all Catherine's pawns. Bellic O'Terray is missing, which she finds suspicious. She wonders if her earlier warning was too harsh. The high society season has only just begun, yet proposals are already flooding in. She assumes Catherine acted quickly after seeing her leave with Kaiden. When Alice says the maids are ready to dress her, Isabella instead says she is tired and will decline seeing the guests today. Alice worries about her condition, and Isabella adds that she is exhausted from last night's activities. That one sentence calmly sent the entire household into silent chaos. The maid immediately assumes things are going well with Kaiden and goes to inform the others. Isabella stops her and instructs her to deliver the message exactly as said. The maid is shocked, and later reports it to Isabella's mother. The situation escalates quickly, as the household debates what to do. Ultimately, her mother decides to step in since they cannot ignore guests of that status. She instructs Alice to make them wait a little longer. Meanwhile, the nobles grow restless, annoyed that they have been waiting for hours without even being offered tea. Finally, the Countess arrives. The guests recognize her immediately as Lily, the former princess, and stand in shock. She calmly remarks that they seem surprised to see her and notes their delayed greetings. She then asks if they are all here to propose to her daughter. The man presses further, asking if Catherine has finally chosen a bride for her son. Catherine is visibly startled and quickly responds that Jeffrey is still too young and immature for marriage. She tries to downplay it, but the man calmly points out that the heir of the Richmond house is already the commander of the Western Knights, so calling him immature feels like false modesty. As he stands to leave, Catherine attempts to ease the tension and thanks him for his understanding. Suddenly, he grabs her wrist, causing her to freeze. He remarks that his own father also refuses to announce a successor, which is why he understands the hesitation. He apologizes for scaring her, but reminds her that children must be given chances. His tone shifts again as he casually mentions he has been considering becoming a matchmaker for Jeffrey. Catherine stiffens immediately when he suggests Isabella as a potential bride. In her mind, she rejects the idea outright, insisting that Isabella and Jeffrey have grown up like siblings and would never accept such a union. But the man dismisses her reasoning, saying that people raised as family can still become real family through marriage. When Catherine tries to object more strongly, he cuts her off, asking if her refusal has anything to do with Count Collins. Her expression shifts in panic, but she denies it. He continues pushing, asking whether she is trying to rise in status to become a countess, instead of remaining a marchioness, and warns that such a move would be impossible unless the Marquess were removed. He then coldly questions whether she intends to increase the dosage of the drugs she has been using. Catherine immediately panics and calls him, "Your Highness," realizing too late she may have exposed herself. He pretends ignorance, questioning why she is so shaken and reminding her to think carefully about why he chose her in the first place. He also hints that she owes her influence in high society to him. Cornered and trembling, Catherine is forced to accept that she will send the marriage proposal. This guy is clearly holding the real power behind the scenes. He appears satisfied and reminds her to be careful, warning that her son must never learn about her hidden dealings or it could destroy everything. The next day, Catherine informs Jeffrey about the marriage proposal. He is stunned and immediately rejects it, insisting there is no way she would suggest something like that unless she had lost her mind. Catherine snaps back, calling him disrespectful, but Jeffrey remains firm, stating that whatever she is planning, he will not be controlled. Catherine then asks him directly if there is a reason he cannot marry Isabella. Jeffrey pauses, visibly shaken. After a moment, he questions whether she truly does not know the reason. Catherine calls his full name, demanding an explanation. Jeffrey, in turn, questions whether he is even truly a Richmond at all, leaving her shocked and speechless as the confrontation escalates. No way! Jeffrey just flipped the power dynamic in one sentence. If you enjoyed this, please comment Isabella below. Until next time, ciao.